my presentation. Thank you for that. Okay, so if you maybe housekeeping, things for you to know before we get started, we do have quite a lot to cover, which is going easily to take us beyond 2 hours. So get your notes, your paper. We are going to go not quick, but it's going to be fluent. Okay, we are not going to have time to crack too many jokes today, but we're going to make it as easy for you to follow as possible. So let me go into presentation mode. There we go. Let's get started. Let's see. Okay. So you can start jotting down your questions and so on in the chat box. Later on, we are going to pick them up and see how much we can answer in the time that we have. Okay, so we are gathered here online, happy hour time, to discuss about dissertation writing. Okay, whatever I'm going to share is definitely not the best way. Definitely not the best way, but it is my way. So what does that do I mean by my way? I've been doing that for maybe the past 10 years, supervising students, having my own dissertation, as well as supervising students from first degree, MSc level, different MSc and not MBA, but MSc mostly, okay, in different fields. So I guide students, okay, as maybe if you have a supervisor or you're going to have a supervisor who's going to guide you. So based on that, I need to I need to mark as first marker, second marker, and so on each time. And I get to understand, I get to collect maybe common mistakes, what needs to be done. At times you tell students what to do, with time, they forget. And maybe with rush, they forget. So I've collected a few of these, not a few, most of these maybe errors, mistake, which can be avoided. The issue, the good thing I would say is that these mistakes can be avoided. Okay. So a bit about myself, no need to go through that, but you can have my contact email, my phone number. Don't call me every now and then, but if ever you need help and so on, I would be here to assist you, to give you guidance as such. Okay. So as I told you, I'm going to share my experience, but not only my experience, because I've done a bit of research, okay, not for publication and so on, research to come up with these set of slides, which I'm going to share with you today. So I've collected these data, okay, what I'm going to share, not from one, two. So maybe the knowledge areas that we have in terms of writing a better thesis, what are authors, researchers around the world, or maybe markers, supervisors looking for when you need to submit your first degree research project, MSc, MBA, or even PhD. What are they looking for? So there are some common ground which we are going to discuss. So this time, so we did cover that maybe 1.5 years back, this set of slides and so on, but I've requested Irfan to ask a question when you are registering for this training, this workshop. What do you want me to cover? Okay, so I've gone through the replies. Okay, there's one which is quite common, which is about how do I choose my topic? The best way to answer that, I'm going to send you back this question. How do you choose your bride? I can't, if you ask me this question, when you ask me a question about how do I choose the best topic for research, I'm going to throw the question back to you. How do you choose your bride from all of these? Okay, so you can't choose all, definitely. Okay, so the question is, it depends. Okay, so you're choosing your, not bride, but your topic. So, but I've tried to understand what is the underlying maybe aspect of this question that you have asked, and I've tried to formulate a few answers for you. So what excites you? What is the field? We have different, maybe people from different background, different research field, different courses that they are currently doing. Okay, so it may be from law, it can be from engineering, maybe from science subject, it may be from medical field, different field. But what actually excites you? You need to be aware about that, because whatever you need, topics that you're going to choose needs to excite you. At night, during the day, at lunchtime, you think about it. And because if it is something that your supervisor has imposed on you, No, être moyen, puis arranger votre truc. Pas trop envie. Pas s'arranger, pas trop envie de faire moyen, but they have forced it onto you. Okay, will it work? Most likely not. So why not look for a love marriage? Okay, love marriage or arranged marriage that maybe you get to check the girl, talk to her, and so on. Then you can agree on that. But this excites you. What is this topic? What is this field? What is this module that you love to do? Not definitely, not definitely, but not necessarily the one where you got the highest grade, but the one that you love to do. Okay, if you love it, you're going to excel at it, believe me. Now, avoid over-research topic. If your students have asked, if you participant of today's session have asked about, can I send you maybe sample dissertation and so on? This is not how we should do it, okay? Because I believe I'm going to give you the big blocks, okay, how to go about, but it's up to you to decide how to come up, because you need to be creative. If we give you a sample and you have them from the university library, you can have access to that. If you stick to these, maybe as sample per dissertation, we are going to follow on the same track. While when you start a new project, you can give yourself this ability to be creative within the parameters which are set to you. Now, what do I mean by avoid over-research topics? At one point in time, when people were doing maybe engineering and so on, they were about quality, TQM, quality TQM. This is dead. Okay, no marker, no supervisor, no second marker would be excited, just as you are excited to select your topic and write on your topic. They should be excited. So what we are going to end today's session with the markers perspective. What are they expecting from you? So they are expecting to be excited by your research, something which is new to them. They're going to learn from what you have, you're going to present. If it is something that they have read 5 times from different students over the past 5 years, have written approximately the same topic, they won't excite you. It's just like you're eating maybe for 5 days, okay, the same meal. Does that excite you? You would like maybe to have pizza for 1 day, biryani on the 2nd day, maybe, I don't know, fried noodles on the 3rd day, and so on. A barbecue on the 4th day and so on. You get excited, different topics, you get to taste different things. It's more exciting, isn't it? So put yourself in the shoes of the marker or your supervisor. The supervisor is generally the first marker. So avoid over-research topic, okay? Avoid too novel topics as well. So, just wait. Isn't that contradictory? So we avoid those which have been over-researched and we avoid novel topics, but why? So two novel topics mean, which is maybe today itself or this year has come out. So the issue is that when you're going to do research, you will need a big chunk of the marking is on literature review. Okay, review existing literature. If it is a topic which is too novel, 1 year old, okay, and it is not related to any other things and so on, you're going to find it very hard to get data, information to work on literature review. And if you fail to get enough data for literature review, which is going to guide you towards maybe your methodology and then your research, basically, it's going to create some problems in there. So look for one topic which is at least 1 year old, or if it is maybe in IT field where it is fast moving, okay, if you take maybe 2 years, 3 years, or 5 years down the line, you could say that maybe a pen drive of 10 gigabyte was the latest technology. But if you say that after 5 years, nowadays we are, I don't know, 1 tera, I don't know how many tera you are for pen drive as well. Okay, I don't know for pen drive, okay, but should be. So it is moving very quickly. So you need to, for the different, that's why I'm not giving you a specific date or maybe time period, because it changes for different fields. For maybe medical field, it may be plus minus. For IT, it's fast moving. Engineering, maybe it depends on which field, like renewable energy is quite fast moving. But if you look after maybe motors, control of motors and so on, maybe quite slow as well. Okay, so just look for your specific field, whatever you are, or the topic. When we say the topic, it's not the exact title, the field that you want to research on, read more about that. Okay, so Another point, availability of secondary data. So what is secondary data? Let's define secondary data. In research, we have two types of data. We have secondary data, which we get from what we call the literature review. We read, we collect information, which is our existing literature. So we don't call that research, we call that search. So in research, we have this search action that we need to do, like looking for existing information to know where knowledge stops. And usually when you see that, oh, this is where knowledge, oh, they don't know what comes after. This is what I'm going to look for. Okay, so this is availability of secondary. If you don't have secondary data, or maybe at one point when I started my PhD, so maybe I started to give it a thought. I wanted to do research on smart cities and smart grid. Okay, but then when I met with a potential supervisor at the university, he told me that we don't have so much of information. It's going to be very hard. It's going to take time. It's going to be very hard. So that's why I switched to renewable energy, which was picking up at that point in time. Then you have accessibility to primary data. Good to have secondary data, that existing knowledge around you, but then your part, this research part, the additional information that you need to gather to come up with your report, your findings, where do you get that? Where is that available? Maybe if you're looking that for a firm, you're going to do a research on a firm. Do you have access to the firm? Have you confirmed that you can maybe ask, okay, or maybe circulate a questionnaire to their employees? Or will you even have access if you want to work, maybe your research in PM or Prime Minister's office? Would you have access over there? Okay, so just be careful about, do you have, or are you going to have access to primary data? Okay, to collect. Maybe my dissertation for PhD was on renewable energy. How is, you have solar panel on people's house and so on, the data which is correct, how many maybe irradiation has been captured today for the wind turbine that we have in the east. Okay, how much power have they been producing over a certain period of time? Where do you get these data? I had to get that from the CB. Okay, but CB even though I work at the CB, I need to get permission to use such data for research purpose. Okay, so can you have access to primary data? Another question which is going to help you in your topic selection. Now, how do you maybe get to at least fine tune, or maybe try to get maybe 5 fields where you may find yourself interesting in? So read research journal par l'express défi sexueux, etc. It's conference papers or journal publication, academic journal. Okay, so look for them. Research one, again, research is so important, and see what is the knowledge. Where are people researching? What are they touching? What is the field that is exciting people around the world? This is going to give an idea. Okay, it's an avant-goût about what you can choose. Use a funnel approach to drill down. Maybe if you talk about sustainability, oh, I think this is a trend nowadays, sustainability and SDG goals and so on. So this is a big goal, open-ended goal. Then you need to funnel down. You say, okay, sustainability, you have maybe the SDGs, 17 SDGs. So maybe let's fine-tune maybe to 4. Then maybe select one, maybe SDG in terms of the blue ocean, not the blue ocean, the blue economy, which is the ocean. So then you're going to do your own research on oceanography or things related to the ocean. Okay, so you started wide, sustainability, SDG goal, you selected 4 or 5 which looks interesting to you, appropriate for your field, then you select your topic. Not your topic, but your specific field. Your topic is going to come just after. Okay, and then at times there are some students which have seen they had very good ideas. Lovely, and this really excites them, overexcites them, I would say. Okay, but remember that you have a time frame. If you're doing a BEng, a BSc, you have a limited time frame, maybe over 1 year. How much can, not even 1 year, several months, how much can you do? Because you don't have only just your focus mathematics on that. No, you're going to have different modules to do, different aspects, maybe if you have research and so on. So how much time are you willing, or can you really dedicate to your project? Think about it. So look for a topic, a project which you can like handle. Don't try to be Superman, Batman. Okay, just try to take it easy. Look for one which is acceptable, appropriate for you. okay? But do it to the best of your ability. Okay, it's very sad to take like an interesting topic. Yes, interesting, but it's not appropriate for a BEng or a BSc. It may be appropriate maybe for an MSc research base, or even maybe a PhD, part of a PhD. Okay, so you are limited by time. It's not about the result. Remember, it's not about the result. It's about developing your research capabilities. Do you know how to get results? If not, maybe you have got results. How do you interpret these results? They may not be according to what you have found, what you expected. The results may not be maybe according to what was expected. Then you can explain why. Maybe my sample size was too small. I couldn't get all the response necessary. Maybe I didn't have access to this type of data, or data was limited. So maybe your research is not conclusive to be able to answer your research question, but you have been able to come up with a reasoning why it didn't work out. And it is a finding in itself. It is a finding in itself. So all this not about, remember, it's not only about the end result. So some students who get the outcome, the result, expected result, beautiful result, but then they don't get the good grades. We are going to show you why. Okay, now last point is employability. I've been in a few interviews, and I have a training on interview as well. One typical question which interviewers, they don't have time, okay, basically to prepare a set of questions and so on. So question come typical question that they have. And they're going to ask you, if you're from the technical side, tell us more about your final year project. Okay, so how can you be maybe avant-gardist? How can you prepare for the interview question? Can you, I just want to put a question mark with it. Is there a topic which can help you? So it is not a deciding factor. It is a plus point. Okay, so is there a topic which can help you later on the marketplace, in the industry around you where you're doing your degree? So can you choose something which is going to help you later on? Think about it. So different points to help you maybe choose your topics. This is what I've been able to find out for you. Now it is very important to understand the problem. Why? Because understanding the problem, the gist of your problem, what you're trying to solve, is already half the solution. You need to understand exactly what your title, what your topic is. Okay, and that's why you use a funnel approach. Start wide, read about the topic itself. Then when you read, you're going to see, oh, these people have already researched. Yeah, done that, has done that. I don't feel there's much research, there's maybe missing knowledge, or it has not been published yet. This is where I'm going to get. So you need to understand what is the problem first. As you're going to replicate and so on, we do not really add value. So generally speaking, this is the research process. We won't go into the big details, but what is important for you is you need to define the research problem. This is what we have been talking shortly about, the research problem. What do I need to do? What topic to choose? I can't tell you, because you have a set of broad, just choose one. It will depend on you, what you like, what basically excites you. Sorry for that. Okay. Then we come the literature review. We're going to come to that in a short while. We formulate the hypothesis. Usually we formulate it, then we can bring that to the chapter 1. But this is not the structure of the report. It is a structure, the research flow chart. Okay. By reading the literature, this is where we find exactly what is the pathway that we need to take. Okay, so then we formulate hypotheses, or maybe research question, research objective, aims of the research, purpose of the research, all these different things. We formulate it when we know exactly where we want to go. This is where we want to go. And definitely there's going to be some fine-tuning as we proceed. Okay, then we move to research design. How are we going to do literature reviews here? How are we going to answer? These are the questions. We need to find answers to this question. How do we go about finding these answers? This is your step. Step 1, we are going to find answer by doing this, 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 this. Then you proceed. Execution. Okay. Then based on the data, the result, the graph, whatever you get, you analyze. You need to interpret. And as I told you earlier, it can be that you don't get the expected result. Okay, let's say we expected to have we were doing a population sample, 50% male, 50% female. It happened that we got 75% female, 25 male. It is not an expected result. We expected 50-50, but can you explain why you've got 75% female? If you can, okay, you work on the demographics and so on, you can understand what went wrong in your methodology and so on, that's okay as well. So you know what not to do, and you're going to share what not to do so that someone else don't repeat the same mistake. It additional knowledge to the industry, but this should not be your main aim, identifying what can go wrong, but it can happen, and you need to show you understand what went wrong and so on, because it's a flow. You can't go back at that point in time because you are limited by time. Okay, then you interpret, you do the conclusion, a report, recommendation, and so on. This is generally the research process. But for us today, okay, we are going to focus on three main things, 1, 2, and 3. Let's see, academic writing. We are going to spend quite some time of academic writing. Why? Because we're not here to write love letters. Definitely not. It's about a correct way to write. And this is where students at times, not most of the time, but at times they fail. What I mean by fail is not that they get a 0. No. You get marks for academic writing. You get marks for referencing. Okay. If you have let's say a project which gives you approximately 60%, so if you have good academic writing, it can give you maybe 65. If you have good referencing, it can move you to 72, which is an A. So these are the things that are going to, because we are not here to discuss about what is the best approach, maybe the best findings that you need. No, it's about the general things that students miss. So you can do it better by applying, by first, number 1, academic writing. Number 2, we are going to see the structure of the dissertation, because this has been one of the questions that you have asked. What do you put first, second, third? And there are some things that we need to discuss, really discuss about that. And then the referencing. You get, I won't tell you how many marks because you're going to find out at the end, but there are some good marks attributed to referencing. Referencing comes in 2 parts. We have the in-text citation and then the list of references. We're going to cover all that today. But for the time being, let's start with academic writing. Hey, man, I know how to write English. I've got a 1 in SC and A in HSC. What all that fuss around academic writing? Sorry, guys, it's not about SC and HSC over here. So let's have a look at what academic writing is all about. Number 1, the pyramid for academic writing, short sentences. I know, I've been through that your English tutor, your English, not lecturer, but your teacher has asked you, we need to impress Cambridge. We need to write different types of sentences. At times we put the subject or form, not subject or formulas happen in mathematics. It's a verb, we start a sentence with a verb. At times we put that a subject. At times we ask a question. We put an exclamation just to impress. Yes, I have a whole panoply of ways of writing English. That's very good for SC and HSC. Fine for that. But we are not here to test your English. But you need it. Okay, you need it. You need good academic English writing to help you in your dissertation because you're communicating. So we need to stick with short sentences, no long sentences. Keep it as short, concise as possible. We do have some examples coming on later. So why short sentences? Let me give you, I won't give you all the whys, but for this one I can, because it's going to take time if we explain why for all. Short sentences because academic writing, okay, the findings that you are trying to share or the literature that you are going to expose is already heavily, it's a heavy burden because it is like mind-racking to read those. It's better to read maybe Défi, Sexo, whatever, L'Express and so on. It's light. Okay, you're reading about football and so on. It's leisure. Yes, not leisure. You need to focus. And if you write complicated sentences, the reader for you is going to be your marker, your supervisor, first marker, second marker, the one who's going to give you grades. He's going to disconnect. You may be having the best, the most exciting topic, but if your way of writing is like too heavy, he's going to disconnect. And when he's just going to give average marks. So you don't want that. I don't want that for you. But do you want that? So stick as far as possible to short sentences. No unnecessary word. We are going to give you a few examples later on. Then we've got familiar words, acronym, jargon. Let's take some time for familiar word. Usually it will depend the words that you choose for a report, a technical report, maybe a dissertation and so on, a thesis. It will depend on the readership. Who is going to read that? If it is your supervisor or someone, it is a field that you know you need jargons or words which are specific to a group of persons. There's a group of persons who are going to understand these terms that you are using. Someone else from another field, they won't understand. Okay, maybe for us electrical engineers, if we choose resistance, inductance, maybe a few people, because those who have done physics maybe at HS level, they will understand. But we start talking about conductance, harmonics, it's slowly like people are just going to disconnect. Okay, so if we need to use this term harmonic, which is it's not a jargon, it's like well embedded in the electrical engineering field, because someone who's going to mark your dissertation, they will need to know about harmonics. But if you're presenting to wider audience, I would ask you to change it. Don't use harmonics, or if you need it, define it, explain what it means. But for your dissertation, it is for a specific readership. You have your supervisor who's going to be a lecturer in the field. He's going to look for appropriate second markers and so on in the field. So then you can use not heavy jargon, but words. I would put that as technical words which make sense to them. And if you can maybe avoid it, but don't use general terms as well. Okay, general terms will show that you don't understand the field that good. Okay, so just be careful about the correct choice of jargon. Acronym, we're going to come to that, is maybe aids. It may be words like we do have a slide, I believe, on acronyms. We are going to discuss more on that. You have a list as well. Now, another question is active or passive voice. Active voice is more what we call direct, and passive voice is more like approachable. Which one do we go for? We do have, we discuss that later on, but both are acceptable. Let me tell you, nowadays, both are acceptable, and there is a clear tendency toward active voice in dissertation. Maybe past 5 years, 10 years from now, before that, not from now, yeah, before that, passive voice was the only acceptable one. But slowly, the field is accepting active voice. But personally, I still prefer passive voice, and you can give the same impact as active. Active is usually more impactful, but you can give the same impact by using passive voice. We're going to cover that later on, and I'm going to show you why. A good style. Okay, so a good style means at times it can happen that you started with an introduction, then you went on to the methodology, you start writing the literature review, you did the conclusion, and you just hop around and so on. That's good, a way of doing it. I'm happy with that. But then when someone is reading through your report from page 1 to the end, what we call from cover to cover, it should have a consistency. Okay, the type, the approach, everyone has a writing style. No need for you to copy, but you need to have an appropriate style. The way you approach it, the way you develop your point, it should be common. Okay, it should not be like sutsuti. Correct punctuation. Correct punctuation means the comma, the semicolon, the colon, the parenthesis. We are going to cover that. And then be concise. We talk about short sentences, no unnecessary word, be concise. Okay, these are the pyramid for the academic writing. Remember all that. Quickly now, okay, we won't spend too much time on UK against US English, but be careful. I believe that most of students here are from the University of Mauritius, or maybe the UTF, or universities operating in Mauritius. We are accredited by, we follow usually the UK English writing style. Okay, so be careful, because at times when you start your Microsoft Word, you need to, from day one, things that you can do right now, even though you have not topic, you're in year 1, create a Word document, label it as, name it my final year dissertation, go on to that, change the language right away, change it to UK English. Okay, so you have already started your dissertation. So a few terms, like for the American one, it's nice fonts. but pants in England means your underwear. So just be careful about this. I believe you won't be using these terms in your dissertation, but things like sweet candy, maybe not that much. Aluminium and aluminum, okay? Biscuit cookie, not that much. Chips and French fries, okay? If you're going to a restaurant over there, I had this issue. I ordered chips. I was expecting the Mauritian chips, but I got what we call a packet of Lay's. For them, it's Lay's is chips, okay, in a packet and so on. So I should have ordered French fries. So just be careful about that. But what you can do right away, we are starting your dissertation, just change the language properly. Spelling, this is where it can be a bit confusing. You have the British English, like for neighbor, it's B-O-U-R. Over there, American English is B-O-R. Okay, they don't have the ending U. Sanitize, modernize, different verbs ending with SE. This is British English. For American English, ZE. And we'll see that by default, your word is in American English. So you will, if you write sanitize, SE, they will say, hey, there's an error in there. No, just be careful. Okay, just change it. And practice, verb practice, and so on. Just be careful about these. And you have meter. What is meter and meter? What is British? What is in English? So just be careful about that. Quickly, because we don't have much time to spend on that. Passive and active voice. We started that discussion. So active voice means like you participate in that. I conducted a study on integrating renewable energy. Sentences are easier to understand and require less word. Okay, it's good because I conducted, because what I feel, it's good. It is, the new trend is to go for active voice, but still, maybe I'm from the old school, I still prefer, because if I read, if maybe in the conclusion you're going to say, maybe you should, in passive voice, it would have been the results were achieved as expected. It was the results were achieved as it's okay. But if you use active voice, I achieve the expected result. So it's just like you're the boss. I achieve. So for me, I believe using active voice over there is a bit too like bling bling on you. Okay. I achieve the results. Just keep cool. Okay. So you can say the results were actually the expected results, where it's more like humble. For me, my perception, if you ask me. But for the time being, worldwide, active and passive are acceptable. You can, but the idea is, if you start with passive, stick with passive throughout your dissertation. If you start with active, stick to active throughout your dissertation. Don't choose sauter de coq à l'âne. Okay, this is where we need to stop that. This is where we need to stick to consistency. Just be careful. Okay. So passive voice, a study was conducted on integrating renewable energy. So you see, you miss this I here, okay? Because in active voice, you know exactly who did that. In passive voice, a study was that. Was that Einstein? Was that maybe the Prime Minister who did a study on renewable energy? So a research. But usually when you're presenting your dissertation, when you put a study or this study, was based on, so which is, what is this study? It is the studies that we are talking about. So you already have it, like it's not direct, but it is understood that this is the study that we are talking about. Okay, no need to say I did it, I'm the man. So just be careful, but both is acceptable. If you example, I will discuss Kant philosophical theories in the essay. This is active. I will discuss. No, but you can put Kant philosophical theories will be discussed. So it's more, for me, it's more calm. It may be the way I'm presenting it as well, but I'm just trying to put it, if I'm reading, how I would be reading it. The scientists added reagents to the sample. Reagents was added to the sample. So was added, it's more calm. Okay, so a few examples given to you, and you will see in the slide, I've given you also the referencing where you can get more information about these different things. And studies have been conducted and so on. So you miss issues. Who conducted the studies? So when you say passive voice, what are the, maybe the loophole of passive? Yes, studies have been conducted, but who did that? But for you, you can complement. That's why we say we can complement. Studies have been conducted on the importance of the exercise. In bracket, you put the reference, the in-text citation. It would mean that these are the guys who did it. No need to say Mr. X, Mr. Y, Mr. Bean conducted the study. This is active voice. This Mr. X, Y, Mr. Bean conducted. This is active voice. But if you want to use passive voice, studies has been conducted on the importance of the exercise, open bracket, Mr. X, or the surname, don't put Mr. X, surname, year, and so on. You have it in terms of the in-text referencing. So you can compensate for that. This is what I meant. So a few examples given to you for you to read in your time. Now, in what tense should you be writing the dissertation? So it's not the dissertation as such. We can split it in different maybe aspect of the dissertation. Let's have a quick look. Introduction, usually we can use the present tense. Okay, we say that the aim of the study is, or if you can use also, I also prefer maybe was. The aim of the study was, okay, if you're starting with past tense, you can stick the aim of the study was to demonstrate that, okay. Or if you can also write in the introduction, the aim of the study is to find, because you're addressing it directly. Acceptable, both acceptable. But one which is definitely needs to have present tense is if you have figure 2.1 shows the demographics data of XYZ. It cannot be shown, has shown. No, the figure there. The figure, the table that you are presenting, that you are putting in your dissertation should be in present tense. That's it. Literature review, hypothesis, methodology, results, and observation. These chapters, they are written in the past tense because literature review is what Mr. X, Mr. Y, Mr. Bean had done. It is past tense. Okay. Describe that these are the constitute work already completed. Okay. Smith and Jones reported the results of their investigation of housing trends in their book published in 1985. So it's done. It's past tense. You need to put that in the past tense. It's clear. Nothing much to tell about that, but just to be aware. Discussion and conclusion can be written in the present perfect tense. This signifies work already done in the past and which is relevant to the present time, and I have a slide to cover to explain that to you. But let's cover future tense. Okay, let me move this. With the future tense, so let's say in the conclusion, you're going to say, what are the recommendations? What can be done? Future work. This is where you put the future. Now, this can be done. I will recommend, okay, the additional researchers can, so you are working in the future. This is where the future gets in. Only in the recommendation, the last part, or what can be done. Okay, if a legislation is going to cover these findings, it will be beneficial to the whole population. So you see how we can, but generally speaking, past tense can be used throughout, except for maybe introduction. Maybe introduction, past tense acceptable as well, but only for the, let's say the critical part for present tense is for the figures, the table. Future tense, if you're recommending future work and the result of these recommendation, what will they achieve? This you can put in the future, but else past is acceptable throughout. Simple present tense, not an English clause, but quickly. General truth, okay. Scholars share a common argument. So generally speaking, habitual action, the ISO standard or regularly reviewed. You can't put were regular. If you put ISO standard were regularly reviewed, this means that nowadays they are no longer regularly reviewed. They were. So just this is normal. Okay, habitual action, it is ongoing. The sun sets or rises in the east and west, whatever. It is still like that. You can say it rose, so this it stopped rising and so on. So just be careful about that. Cite an author or refer to what the author says. So if an author has said something, you can put it there. Present your interpretation. This paper analyzes the impact. This is in what we call the introduction. You can put that. Table 1 above demonstrate. Table, figures, and so on should be in present tense. Okay, good. Simple past. We need to, why we have simple past? We have simple past and the past later on. Simple past is things that an action has started and finished in the past. Okay, it started in the past and finished in the past. So statistical analysis were used to determine relationship between variables. Were used, is done and dusted. Julie and Bird conducted their studies in the early 70s. They are dead now. Okay, may them rest in peace. It's not they, but the studies have already been concluded. Samples were centrifuged, then strained. It's done. So it's easy, but at times we students get you to mix these different tenses. Two subjects had a 1 to 2 log increase in skin deficiency. So two subjects had, it's done. Okay. Now abstract. Tip for you: abstract or written largely in the past tense because the report on an investigation. When we go into the structure of the report later on, you would see that abstract comes first, just after the cover, but they're written last. Abstract or written appear in the document, maybe after the cover page, so right from the beginning, but they are written last because they are going to tell you what has been done. So it should be in the past tense. Future tense, inform about the future event. I think we covered that. Tips: going to is considered informal. We don't use informal, means you can speak it, but you don't write it in academic writing. For Facebook, yes, you can do it. Instagram, yes, you can do it, but not for LinkedIn, which is more formal, not for your academic writing. It's considered informal and rarely used in academic writing. Use such expression as is likely to, is certain to instead. Present perfect. Okay, so present perfect means action that started in the past. Remember the past, simple past that we have seen, it started and ended in the past. Now there are some action which started in the past but has not finished yet. It is still active. Only one example I'm going to cover. She has lived in Melbourne for 2 years. Okay, she has. If I put she lived or had lived, means that she lived there. Nowadays, she's no longer living there. Okay, but if she's still living there, we need to have it. She lived there since past 2 years, but she's still living there. We are going to use what we call the present perfect. She has lived. Okay, there has been a large body of research regarding the effect of carbon emission on climate change. This is what is more appropriate to research. Melbourne, we're not happy. We don't bother too much about Melbourne, but this one is connected to research. There has been a large body of research. It's not there had been, or there were. What has been completed nowadays? There's no. It's still ongoing body of research ongoing on this specific topic. Okay, and a few additional things for you to read below. Past perfect happened in the past before another past. So this is a comparison between past. Maybe one example: the war had already ended when the troops arrived. So when the troops arrive, which is already in the past, but in the past itself, there's another past that the war had already ended. Just to compare two different pasts. So there's one which is past of the past. This is what we call the past perfect. Okay, so we have talked about maybe the tense, active and passive voice. Now, key thing for you: punctuation. Ha ha ha, so easy. Full stop, comma, and so on. Let's see. Okay, so comma. This is going to put you in your comma. Tomatoes, beans, cabbages, and potatoes were all genetically modified in turn. Is that correct? Yes, it is correct. But this is what we call the English language. In American language, they are going to put what we call an additional, let me just change, they are going to put an additional comma here. Okay, this is what we call American. For British English, we don't, before the end, we don't put a comma. Okay, if your word is not properly formatted, they will tell you, they will highlight it. Hey, you need to put a comma over there. No, just tell a word that we are working in British English. Okay, so next example, the four main groups were children. So we have four main groups: were children, employees, pensioners, and the disabled. This is the same. It is one group. And then you have the unemployed. You see here, we have had to add this comma here. Okay, you will say, but comma and so on, are we going to get marks for that? Yes, you get marks. This is what you call, if I take a very good biryani, again, bon biryani moya, deg bouzet, okay, poulet parfait, non, okay, veg pour un exemple manger, okay, premier boussée de manger, again, il a été pas. Qu'arrivé. Vous allez biryani, ce salade, ce pomme de terre, il faut des fondants, manger la viande à bouse, il faut des guetter. Premier boussée au gain, ou gain, il a été, qui ou dit là, dressé, pas dressé. Déjà, vous gagnez cannelle, tasson de les dents. This is what we call the comma. The report is an interesting idea, nice. But what is happening? You're someone reading, they don't understand, is it what comma here? I need to reread the sentence. End coup là. First time, okay. Second time, it must checking. Troisième coup, il trouve carotte, it must give you average marking. Okay, the biryani may smell good, may even look good, but the taste, the proof of the pudding is in the eating. So just be careful about that. Okay. The constant use of the least comma allows the reader to easily see that pensioners and the disabled is a single group. Okay. After transitional words such as however, nevertheless, moreover, therefore, and similar. You see, all these are what we call transitional words. Très important, very important, people. Know these words. When you're going to do research, you're going to start your literature review, you're going to read research papers. You're not going to read maybe Facebook and so on to get ideas. Okay, you're going to come across these words. Note it down. Get a notebook, note it down, because we're going to come back to that later. This is what is going to embellish your work later on. So another use of comma, to put a word or phrase in parentheses. Parentheses is what we call the like brackets also. So just like, but this one, when you use comma in this form, it comes in pairs. You can't have one. An example is, and as discussed previously. When you're reading it, you need to read it, and as discussed previously. You have a small pause before and after. The three plaintiffs were approached later. I read it again. And as discussed previously, the three plaintiffs. So you could have removed it. And the three plaintiffs were approached later. It may not change the full meaning of the sentence, but you're adding an additional information which need to be read with a small pause at the beginning and the end, and the comma replaces this small pause. Certain crops, for instance, wheat, are susceptible to diseases. Certain crops are susceptible to disease. You're just giving an example. Certain crops, for instance, wheat, are susceptible to diseases. So you see, these comma comes in pairs. Just be careful about that. Semicolon, the main use is to separate parts of a sentence that are too closely related to be broken separate. So at times you have a sentence. If you put a full stop, it's too strong. It's an abrupt. But if you put a comma, it's too weak. So then you can use what you call a semicolon. Example, 7 people applied for the post. 6 were shortlisted and then interviewed. So you see, you can't put a comma or a full stop there. It would have been a bit too abrupt, or it's not going to make sense. It's better to put what you call a semicolon. Nobody questioned the results. They were quite conclusive. Okay. Many people come to the city, some for work, others come for leisure. Different examples how we use the semicolon. Now the colon, we have only 3 main users of the colon. Okay. So we have a list, explanation, or quotation. Example, 3 aspects were identified. Colon, it's not semicolon, it's colon, financial, social, and ethical. You see, after social, you don't have a comma. You start to get used to this correct way of writing. These systems make checks such as this is an explanation. Checks such as, so this is the second one. The first one we have seen the list. Second one is the explanation. Whether it contains a verb, whether it is overly complex, patati patata. Okay, it's an explanation. Use a colon for explanation. Third one is a quotation. Someone has put a quote, like Einstein said, in the middle of difficulty lies opportunity. Okay, so in this one you have the colon, yes, and you have those little butterfly at the beginning and the end. We are going to come back to that. Exclamation, those one, avoid them. I don't see anywhere where you can use that. There's nothing like to be acclaimed, to be I don't know what surprise about in the report. Only if you're doing a bit of programming, then this can find its way in. But this is for programming language, not for academic writing. They are annoying. Capitalization, it's too easy. We know about capitalization. Let's see. Some researchers seem to like capitalizing important terms and description of common processes almost as if they were heading embedded in the text. What is that? Terms, important terms. So maybe it's going to be to create some attention, but put it bold, underline it, put it in yellow, highlight it if it's so important. Okay, or common processes. Why put that capital? So what does that show to the reader? This exercise of uppercase letters seem to say, hey reader, hey supervisor, I'm unfamiliar with academic writing. You're just putting all the limelight on you. Say, hey, he don't know about academic writing, because in English, we don't capitalize for anything. Okay, unless if it is maybe in a contract, you have terms and conditions. So terms and conditions in a contract is maybe a section of the contract. So it is not general terms and conditions. It is a specific terms and condition. Then you put that in first letters capital. That's okay. Okay, but here it doesn't mean anything. It's just important terms and so on. It's general. So don't capitalize for nothing. Capital, when to use capital letters? The first word of it in a sentence in the beginning. Okay. Days and month, Friday, July. So first day, the day and the month. Simple. Nationality, words like Mauritius, Mauritian. Languages, Swiss, French, German, and so on. Names of people, Dr. Martin Lee, Sydney, Australia. Sydney, Australia come from nationality word. Book titles, main words only. This is interesting because whenever we are going to do that, when we do the cover, usually your title, we try, this is acceptable, the title only, okay? The main words to create emphasis, the main word, not the linking word, okay? The main word, we capitalize the first letter. This is acceptable, okay? Historical period like the Bronze Age, the Great Depression, these are specific terms. The pandemic, when we talk about the pandemic, small p means the pandemic, the general. When we say the pandemic, oh my God, we have been through that past 2 years or so. So people will know it is a historical period. The pandemic, a big P over there. Names of organization, University of Mauritius. O is small letter, not big O. Be careful about that. The first person pronoun, by Monday, I had finished. It's not if you had you, Y should not be capital. This is clear for you, I believe. Note, seasons are not capitalized. That is winter, summer, autumn, they are not capitalized. Acronym, our good friend. Acronyms are made up of the initial letter of a name or phrase, like AIDS. You have heard about AIDS. Acquired immune deficiency syndrome. Maybe you don't know what it means fully, but at least you know AIDS. Okay, they are pronounced as word. Okay, some can be radar, laser, and so on. Radar and laser. They are acronym, but since we have been using them properly, maybe commonly, regularly, we don't know exactly what the full acronym stands for. But as an academician, not academician, but as an academic writer, as a student writing academic English and so on, you need to be careful, because if you're using acronym, you need to define it first. So first time you use it, the first time the acronym is used, it must be written in full. So you need to know which words are acronym or the real words for the English language. Okay, so first time you need to write it in full, acquired immune deficiency syndrome, then in bracket you put AIDS. Then next time that you're going to use it, you can use that directly. Don't put AIDS, then you write acquired patati patata first time and so on. No, you need to put in full form first, then followed by the acronym. Then later on the document, when it comes, you're going to write it in the simplified form only. And believe and remember that we have what we call a list of acronym at the beginning of the report. We are going to come to that in the structure of the report. You will need to keep a list of all the acronyms that you have in the document. Bracket, curve bracket, parenthesis, and square bracket have quite separate uses. Don't use them interchangeably. Just I use that here, I'm going to use that over there. No. And mostly using mathematical expression generally. Okay. Quotation. No, the quotation, yeah, quotation, those what we call butterflies. The principal use of quotation mark is to enclose the exact words of a writer or a speaker. We can't change, like Einstein said, in the middle of difficulty lies opportunity. You can't try to say in the middle, let's try difficulty, let's try problem in the middle of problem. No, it is the exact words that Einstein said. I had a dream, Martin Luther King. You can't say, I was sleeping. It doesn't mean anything. I had a dream. This is what Martin Luther King said. So you can't change that. It needs to be into quotation mark. And so he asked, did you call me sir just then? So you can, if you are using that, you can use that. Oh, so this is when do you use the first one or when do you use these two? This is an example which is given. If you say, so this is what he said, you put one here, or, okay, not or, this is a British English, American English, you're going to put two here, okay, and one in the middle. But there's no hard and fast rule on that, but it's good to know, okay? Because numbers, we do have quite a lot of numbers in our research and academic writing. Let's have a look at numbers now. Okay, paraît facile, vous étiez là. There's no final S on hundreds, thousands, millions used with whole numbers. Example, 6 million people live there. It's not 6 millions, it's 6 million people live there. However, when we say thousands, millions of people live there. We are not saying how many million exactly. It's a millions, thousands of people. Then we put an S over there. Next, which is going to be good for you. It is normal to write whole numbers as words from 1 to 10. So if you're writing maybe 7, you don't write 7. You need to write 7. If you're writing 11, you don't write 11. You write 11. So this is the demarcation point to 10. If you're going to write numbers from 1 to 10, okay, you write them as whole numbers like this, the words. Okay, but above that, above 10 is a digit, 11, 12. No, I should have been, this is how you should write it. Sorry for that, not 11. Okay, this one should be written as 7 and not like this. Okay, there were 16 students in class, but only 8 came to the lecture. So you see how it is working. There are 16, it is more than 10. You need to write that in figures. 16 students in class, but only 8 came to the lecture. This is in word. Okay, this is a correct way of writing it. Now, keywords, very important. I know that it's good to use some synonym. We have that, it's good. Let's say to change, to show that you can use, like let's say figure 1 shows depreciation, figure 2 shows appreciation, figure 3 shows patati. So it always shows, so you're going to use different. Figure 1 shows, figure 2 demonstrate, figure 3 elaborates, and so on. That's good. But we have what we call the key term. Just like the key, there are some key terms for your report. Let's say you're talking about sustainability. You can't, you want to stress, you want to nail it down, sustainability. You can't now change it, dilute it in your report. First paragraph, you use sustainability. Second paragraph, you use maybe green energy. Third paragraph, blue economy. Future for our kids. So this, you're trying to show that you can change synonyms and so on, but you can use synonyms for everything, not your keywords. Keywords are so important. This is what you call your punch, because the more it appears, it's going to punch the reader. Pow, pow, pow. If you try to dilute it, this is where you dilute the whole thing. Repeat the keywords through the text to drive home, to nail it home, the importance of these words. Use the exact keywords throughout the text and avoid the use of synonym, which will confuse the reader. For other things, okay. But for your keywords, you need to repeat it, drive it home, nail it, hit it hard. Conjunction and transitional words. We mentioned that earlier on, but so important to make your English beautiful, to link sentences, to link ideas, to link paragraphs, to create contrast. Conjunction like, examples are given to you. But although, unless, if, as, since, while, when, before, after, where, before, because, for, whereas, and, or, no. We all know these. But at times we don't, when we need to write it down, we don't pay attention to that. So that's why I've told you, take a notebook, write it down. Because when you're writing, when you're correcting, you're rereading your report, you can add here, and that's going to beautify your academic writing. These are conjunction. Then you have transitional words, like to link one sentence to the other, like however, thus, therefore, instead, also, so, moreover, indeed, furthermore, now, nevertheless, likewise, similarly, accordingly, consequently, and finally. So these are only a few. I have a collection of that. Okay, you have transitional phrases as well. In fact, in spite of, so these are so interesting when you need to write your literature review, because over there you need to criticize. In literature review, you get marks for criticism. It's not about getting here, copy paste, modify, copy paste, modify, copy paste. No, it's about saying X said pandemic was very bad for him. Y said pandemic was beneficial for him. Beneficial for him. Okay, and then you need to contrast now. Pandemic was okay, was good. So this is where, in spite of, as a result, for example, for instance, these are where you input, you get your marks, you put the examples, you get this journal publication, you support this claim. These are the verbs, not the verb, the words, which are going to help you create this link in between your sentences and ideas. Okay. So I have a list, okay, which I give to my student. Okay, this is page 1. So conversely, likewise, correspondingly, alternatively, however, despite, I think it's 2 or 3 pages. So it's good when you're writing your dissertation, you just use a lot of these. So if you want it, you can email me. I'm going to send that to you. Now, jargons, I think we did spoke about jargon, okay, to avoid, if can be, if you have an equivalent with the same weight, but if you cannot introduce it, define it, then use it sparingly. Not, and if you need to use it, at least use 1 or 2 jargon, not use 10 jargon in 1 paragraph. So what are you telling me? You're talking to me in Latin and so on. So just make it easy. Remember, it's for you want to get marks, isn't it? Okay, you don't want to impress them, you want to get marks, isn't it? So do things that are going to make it easy for them to give you. Don't give them a headache. They're not going to give you marks. As simple as that. To use or not to use. Structure of writing, keep it simple. Don't beat about the bush, go there, here, up, down, and so on. Structure your writing properly. You can do even a plan. You can, nowadays people don't do plans, they just write and then they're just going to copy paste and so on. It's easier. Previously people wrote on paper, then they try to erase, copy here and there, you scribe it down, patati patata, then you get just what you call structure. But nowadays you can write directly and then you can correct on the Microsoft Word and so on directly. But structure it. What is meant by structure? You need to have a paragraph. Each paragraph has a topic sentence. I'm not going to here to teach, I've taught you enough of academic English writing, but each paragraph should have a topic sentence. Don't put, it has 5 advantages, advantage number 1, number 2, number 3, you put all that in a paragraph. No, paragraph number 1, you discuss 1 advantage. Paragraph number 2, second, even though it is small paragraph, that's okay. Remember, keep it simple. Don't mix all of them together. Okay, paragraph 1, 2, 3, 4, and so on. Keep it simple. Structure your writing. Avoid complexity. What do I mean when I say avoid complexity? Let's give you a few examples. These couple of slides are going to give you example. Okay, so in order to ascertain, this is an example, in order to ascertain the efficaciousness of the program, all the program participants who took part in the study were interrogated at some point upon program completion. Ah, well, makes sense, yes. But can you do that? What I tell my student is, if you can hold your ear like that, why do all this harm and then do this way? Hold it like this, so easy, direct to the point, concise. This is how we can write it. To determine the success of the program, we question the participant afterward. This is active voice. Same amount of information transmitted, communicated as the first sentence in half the number of words. Write clearly, simply. So this is in active form. If you want now to put that in passive form, to determine the success of the program, the participant will question afterward. From active to passive, as easy as that. Another example, don't use won't, didn't, and so on. Won't, don't, didn't. These are what we call spoken English. Okay, here we are not speaking English, we are writing English. So instead of export figure to won't, we need to write will not improve. Okay, same for didn't allocate. So this one is a bit different. The government didn't allocate much funding for the program. So you have didn't and much funding. So it's 2 things. We can change that to the government allocated little funding, direct to the point. Hold your ear as easy as possible. Don't make yoga. It is unclear what will be the price of oil next year. Yes, it is English, but you will need to think about it twice. It is unclear what will the price of oil be next year. It's a bit like we can understand, but it's not like we want it to be easy, smooth. It is unclear what the price of oil will be next year. Make much more sense. So clear, direct to the point. Okay. Do not start your sentence with conjunction. Yes, Michel, tu dis, de conjunction, and panoply and panier conjunction, most method. No, yes, use it, but know where to use it. Okay. In Joe bois, c'est pas sanatozen, bois, pas quand on tantôt, midi bois sanatozen, même you need to know where to drink it in what proportion. Dose it properly. So the conjunction as well need to know where to use it, not at the beginning of a sentence, like but, for, and so on. Abbreviation, do not start a sentence with an abbreviation. You know about abbreviation, acronym, and so on. DNA data collated in the study. No, we don't start a sentence with DNA data. DNA, remember, is an acronym. We don't start a sentence with an acronym. Okay. Instead, we can use we collated DNA data. Okay. And then you have 7 data points were used. Don't start a sentence with 7 data points. With numbers, don't start a sentence. So a few things for you, maybe some you may know or may not know. Instead, use a total of 7 data points. Good. Things to avoid. Emotional words. I love this dissertation. No, what are you writing a love letter? So don't avoid emotional words. Good. So what is good for you? What is correct? What is improved? Maybe moving from 40 marks to 42 marks, a big improvement. Let's have a party. This is improvement for you, but for others, it's not improvement at all. Maybe moving from 40 to 65 would have been an improvement. From 40 to 80 marks would have been an improvement. So it's low borderline, balance low borderline. You need to move further, but for it is an improvement. Précisément, il y a 42 points là. Okay, so avoid, because it is subjective. People interpret it, understand it differently. Superlative, gigantic, magnificent, marvelous, fantastic. These are what we call subjective words, what we call superlative. Avoid. Redundant word. I love this one. Small in size. But if you're not small in size, what dimension you should be? Small in what? It should be small in size. So these are what we call redundant words. Remember the pyramid? Avoid unnecessary words. Square in shape. So if it's not a square in shape, what is it? Is square in color or yellow in color? It's yellow. It can't be yellow in shape or yellow in size. It should be so. You say, you may feel that because near airports. No, this is what we see. This is what we see in terms of we see, and the feeling is ban, zepis qui nous gagne de manger, la nous grâce, la ban, this is what we feel. Importance of proof. It's not importance, it's importance. You see, this is what we call proofreading, misspelling. At times, don't rely heavily on Microsoft Word. Microsoft Word will correct it. No, not necessarily, because at times you don't even know. Okay, so revise your work to improve its clarity and logical development. In both situations, proofreading is essential to avoid the small errors which may make parts of your work inaccurate or difficult to understand. Proofreading is so important. Okay, rewriting. So let's have a look at rewriting. After completing the first draft, you should leave it for a day and then reread it. Don't read it maybe just after that, because even though you missed a few words, you will understand what you're meaning. You need to forget about it, then come back to it, then you critically reread it, asking yourself the following question: does this fully answer the question in the title? Am I connected to the title? Whatever you are writing, is it connected to the main purpose of the report? Because at times we are reading, we get very good ideas in Marilia from a general public. I want to put it, but it doesn't fit in your dissertation exactly. You try to fit in. So teach it on that, your ego, and you try to add, it doesn't make sense. Okay, you want to please your ego, just do it. But then later when you revise, you rewrite, remove it. Okay, because extra idée, extra top ça, but it doesn't make sense. Okay, so just be careful about that. Does this is it linked to your dissertation? Does the different section of the paper have the right weight? Is it well balanced? If you're comparing the pandemic advantages and disadvantages, you can't put 10 disadvantages, 10 disadvantages of the pandemic, one advantage. So it's not balanced. If you're writing in terms of literature review, it should be hard. You should have contrasting views. Does the argument or discussion develop clearly and logically? Have you been able to put that? This is what you call the planning of the work. Okay, so you can nowadays, previously people have told you were writing on paper to plan it before, but nowadays just drop it directly on Microsoft Word or whatever tool you're using. Then you try to formulate it at the end, but you don't have the feeling. On paper, you could arrow it here and there. You can move it around easier. It's different. The dimension is different, like on laptop or on a piece of paper. Okay, but just take that. It needs to have a logical sequence, a logical flow. Have I forgotten any important points which should support the development? Any idea which you are advancing, it should be supported, especially in the literature review. You can't say, yes, the sky is dark, but where? At what point in time? So you need to support that during this maybe eclipse, and you put the reference and so on. So you need to support whatever you are writing. Is the essay the required length? Not too short, not too long. We are going to tell you the word limit shortly. Now, when discussing, avoid personal phrases such as, in my opinion, again, subjective, or actually, I think this dissertation needs a good A. You're writing that. So what are you? Are you like a master in the field? Okay, so it's not about your opinion. It's about what the research, what the research finding shows us. Use impersonal phrases instead, such as, it is generally accepted that Monday should be banned from going to work. It is widely agreed that most people believe, and you don't say only most people, you need to substantiate that with referencing later at the end of the sentence. Most people say that, yes, Monday should be declared like a non-working day. Who said that? Most people. What is most people? So then you put a reference, who said that. It is probable that the evidence suggests that definitely you need to supplement, you need to complement, support these claims. Free phrases suggest a minority viewpoint. It can be argued that, so if you have these are generally accepted one, what you have just listed, but if you have minority, that some people may disagree. So you can use this term. It can be argued that one view is that, and so on. Now you have homophone. What are homophone? Homophone are words which sound the same. When you listen to them, you won't know exactly how to write them. You know them, you don't know how to write them. They also have the same, like, not spelling, but the same tonality. I would not tonality, but the same sound. Okay, 222. Okay, Word, Microsoft Word, so happy, so sad for him. He won't know whether it's 22 or 2. Whatever you write, it's going to make sense to him because he's not human. Whatever, he's going to see it as a word, he's just going to accept it. But for you, it's what you call the proofreading. Later on, just check. Affect and effect, affect, effect, affect, effect. We don't know when to use that, and it sounds the same. Already and already. Okay, the same. Fair and fair. You've got led and led. You've got made and made. And you've got principle. This one is the best. Principle and principle. Every time you're going to do this mistake, principle and principle. It's in principle, we go according to that. The principal engineer, the principal subject. So this is different. Next, sentence length determine the ease of readability of a manuscript. Too long sentences will disrupt the thought flow and increase the chances of error. On the other hand, so we say that we shouldn't have long sentences, but then should not be a short 2-3 words as a sentence. No, we need to be cautious not to have very short sentences. It's just like when someone is reading, hey, paraît-il met 2 bullet points là. Il prend bullet point là, il met une phrase. No, no, no. So very short sentences, line after line, as if the manuscript will resemble a collection of bullet points. Okay, variation in the length of sentences in a paragraph will keep the reader interested and involved. What I mean by variation, it's not the same variation as you're impressing Cambridge, but you need to change it very, very slightly, but not dramatically. Okay, so this is the end of not the presentation, but the academic writing. Now we go into the dissertation. Okay, the big chunk, the headache for some. Let's start with the cover. What do we need to put in the cover? Let's see. You need to have the name of your institution. Hopefully, you know, because I've seen students who make mistake there as well. That's why I've thought that I need to include a slide on that. Then the school or development, be faculty, school, depending. The title of your topic, of your dissertation, okay? Remember, the first main word, not the conjunction words and so on, should be, the first letter should be capitalized. And then, so preferably not more than 15 words. Don't put like a whole essay in there. Usually 15 words maximum. Full name of the author. No need to put by Harry Potter. No need, but this is you. This is the only name that you're going to see in there. No need to put by. Okay, there's no by and behind in there. It's only by. No need to put by. It's only your name. Statement. This thesis is submitted in fulfillment of the requirement for the degree of witchcraft at Hogwarts University. This is your statement. And then the month and year of submission. Okay, this is what a typical, the agreed cover should look like for your dissertation or thesis. Now, do you add a university logo or not? It depends. Some universities have been working at accepts for the student to have a logo in there, but other universities won't accept, because when you put a logo, definitely you need to ask a permission to use a logo. It becomes an official document. So is a dissertation an official document? Some would say yes, some would say no. Better ask your university. Okay, I know for University of Montreal, you don't usually put the university logo, but for UCLan, some students put it, for GCU and so on, they do put it. At times, some students say, is their research topic is sustainability a sustainable solution? Question mark. This is a question. It cannot be a title of a dissertation. You can't have what we call an interrogative title to a dissertation. You can't have like a question mark. It should be a title. It should be like a sentence, appealing one, but not interrogative title. Okay. And then, is it fulfillment or fulfillment? I love this one again, because first, the cover page, the first impression that the student is going to give you. And is it fulfillment or fulfillment? Double L or one L in the middle? Okay, so just these are the simple things which are going, because it may not affect for you when you see, but yeah, I put an L, I don't put it. Is it going to affect my findings? My findings are good findings because I've researched so much. No, these are what is going to put the marker in a bad mood. Not a bad mood, but they're going to it's going to create like a bad first impression. And when you have a bad first impression or a good first impression, it's very difficult to reverse it. It can be, it is possible, but it's difficult to reverse this first impression that someone is going to get on you. Okay, so check accuracy of the degree. I've seen a student submitting MSc, no, not MSc, but BEng, electrical and electronic. Others in the same class, electrical and electronics, electrical and electronic engineering, BEng, electrical and electronic engineering. What you need to choose which one you are going for. So know your degree. Is it MSc construction engineering, MSc construction project, MSc construction project management? What is it about? You need to know your degree. Okay, just be careful. The preliminary pages now. The title page, okay, table of contents. Remember, it's table of contents. There's an S in there, and the C is capital. List of tables, list of figures, acknowledgement, dedication, declaration, certificate of own work, the abstract, list of abbreviation and acronym, and then you got list of publication. Okay, some may not be applicable for you, like list of publication for an MSc bioresearch, it may be applicable. For at times, or some students, even for first degree, they publish their work, or it is in publication, they need to put it there. And but for PhDs, you need to have a list of publications. So we're going to cover each and every one like this one by one. Okay. And then some universities will require you to have a Turnitin report, which needs to be included. Okay. So keep some, leave some space for that. Word limit. How many words should we be writing? Okay. So generally speaking, honors level approximately 10,000 words, master's level from 10,000 to 25,000 words, and for master's by research, in between 30 to 40,000 words. PhD thesis approximately 100 words. Makes sense. So what do we say the words? Okay, what is meant by the word count? This comprises of the main body of the dissertation, including footnotes and so on, in-text citation, tables and figures, while excluding the preliminary. What are the preliminary pages? These are the preliminary pages, and the referencing at the end. Oops, where is it? And you have what you call the append. Whatever you put in the list of references, appendix, they don't count as a word limit. So don't use the word count that you have on Microsoft Word, because it's going to give you, okay, from cover to cover. So you need to select exactly maybe from introduction. So it starts basically from the page introduction to the last sentence, the last word of the concluding chapter. That's it that you have in the word count. Okay, so just be careful. Formatting counts. Really? Let's have a look. So the body text font size usually Times New Roman or Arial. Okay, you would say, but there's so many fonts in my Microsoft Word. Why can't I choose so many? Oh, I've seen it in, it's not intentional for a student. What they do is that they copy maybe part of a website or a book, they just copy paste it there, but the font has changed. What they don't see, they try to format it and so on. The color is different. Et malheureusement, for me, first marker, second marker, I see all that. Moi, c'est une malédiction, but I see all these different things, and I know that they have copied it. Okay, and at times it has been an occasion where even Turnitin could not discern plagiarism. I saw it. Okay, so just be careful anyway. But still, students love to have me for supervision. So heading, so the size should be around 12, not around, but 12 page generally. Try to stick to Times New Roman or Arial. Don't change different font. Okay, keep standard. Heading has, so what you have headings, subheadings, and so on, 14 plus. Line spacing 1 to 5 or double. 1.5 is okay. 1.15 it's a bit too much. So what is meant by too much? It's just going to cram. When someone is going to read, it's going to see too many, and it's like overwhelmed. 1.5 works fine. Margin, if you're going to submit soft copy only, no need to maybe have a left margin bigger. The left margin is usually given as bigger, 40 millimeter, as compared to 1 inch or what we call 25 millimeter elsewhere, because you have binding. If you're going to print it, you're going to bind it. Binding takes some space. Okay, else would be skewed to the left. So you leave some space for binding. So if ever your university asks you to submit, or you need to submit a hard cover, a hard copy of your report, then you will need to, definitely you will need to bind it. You will need to format it right from the beginning. So these are not what you do at the end. It is what you, when you start your document, you start writing, you put it right from the beginning. Because else your figures are going to change, your pagination is going to change, and so on. Just set it right from the beginning. Right top and bottom margin should be 1 inch or 25 millimeters. Alignment to the left for headings, subheadings should be the left, but the main text should be justified. It's not difficult to justify that. Just click on the paragraph, you put it on Microsoft Word, you justify. But why don't people do that? Justify your body text, okay? Pagination, preliminary is what we call, you know what are the preliminary? We have mentioned the table of contents, list of tables, list of figures, list of acronyms, and so on. These are what we call the preliminary pages. These are not numbered 1, 2, 3, 4, what we call Arabic numerals. They are numbered Roman numeral, that is I, double I, triple I, and so on. Okay, lowercase, not capital. Okay, the title page should not be numbered. The title page, the first page, okay, should not be numbered. You have the cover page, then you have the title page. 1, 2, 3 start as from the introduction. Okay, the appendix, okay, the referencing, list of referencing, they don't form part of the word count, but they should be numbered. The 1, 2, 3, whatever it comes, it is numbered after that. Appendix should be numbered. One-sided print. Don't say, let's save paper, save the tree, save the forest. No, not this time. Okay, because we have recycled paper. Okay, so you don't choose two-sided print. Pas la gazette ici. Okay, one-sided print, please. If you need to submit hard copy, if you're working on draft and so on, you can do it definitely. If you have different volumes, each volume should have its own pagination. It's not like a continuation. Volume 1 stops at 125, other one starts at 126. No, each volume should have its own pagination. Title page, table of contents, abstract. It is essential to create a good impression there. This is the starting point. If you watch a film, the first few minutes of the film is very down. So you lose interest in the film. But if it is modern, if it has some bite in it, okay, you want to, it's interesting, okay, it creates interest in you. You start working. Hey, I want to see it. Get man gajak to sala. So this is what you need to create for the second marker, the first marker and the second marker, or your supervisor. Okay, create a good first impression. Let's have a look at the table of contents. Okay, preliminary content. So in the table of content, you have the preliminary content, the table of contents, the list of table, list of figures, what we have enumerated before. All chapter headings and subheading. Chapter number 1, introduction, 1.0 introduction, 1.2 purpose or background of the study, 1.3 aim of the study. It goes like that. The chapter, the headings, and the subheading. Respective starting page. Oh my God. Let's say you are going to put pages happens on page 1. Okay, this is page 2. Some people put it like this. Don't put starting at page 2 and page 4. It starts at page 2. You don't put where it is ending, because you see the next one is, let's say, literature review. So you are going to notice page 5. So we'll know that this one stops at page 4. There are some students who give a page range. No need to put a page range. Okay. References, the appendices should be in the table of content. What appendix? Usually you have appendix A. If you have different one, appendix A, B, C, D, and so on. Now, in terms of the numbering, or what you call the coming up with a table of content, which happened at the end of the writing process, I do it manually. I use split screen in Microsoft Word. But so many of my students, they use, or many people, maybe 80%, 90%, they do it automatically. So they define what is meant by heading, and so on. They go around with the document, happy for them. But then when you mark, you see where it went wrong. Okay, at times they're link missing, and they printed the document with link missing because they have not corroborated these. What is, maybe they have late night shopping, late modification to the document, they miss subheading and so on, and then you're going to be negatively marked for that. So sorry for you. But if you use the split screen, you do it manually and you do it at the end. Okay, when you're ready with everything, then you split the screen, you can scroll up and down, you get all these different things readily available. It can take you 1 hour, but I'm 100% sure that is going to work well. If you automatic, maybe it can take you 5, or maybe if you accumulate it over time, it may take you 1 hour as well. But I've seen that maybe 10% of the time, there are some issues with that. Okay, and students don't bother about that, just submit. Okay, they don't check and so on, because they say Word has done that automatically. It should be good. It's not good. Title page should not be included in the table. So in the table of content, we don't put title page and page number 1, 2, and so on. Okay. Next is the list of tables. So you have lots of tables. Usually in your document, you have lots of tables. That's why it's list of tables, not list of table. Okay. So this is a list in chronological order as they appear in the thesis. And it should have the table number here, like table 2.1. Usually, there are some students they put, which is not wrong, but I prefer what I'm going to tell you. You can have like table 1, table 2, table 3, and so on. So you don't know in which chapter it is drops. Okay, but this one, like 2.1, you know that it is the first table in chapter number 2. I prefer this one. So it gives you like a chronology. And if ever you insert a table here, maybe a new table when you're revising, or your supervisor say, I think you need to include a table here. What do? All these different tables are going to, unless you have maybe done that automatically and so on. But if you're using it like this, it's only in the chapter that it is going to change. Okay. Now, it is said that usually the tables, the agreed principle usually is this is in capital, full capital. Okay, so you have the table number, the caption of the table, and then the page number. Don't forget to have the page number. Lastly, maybe that was 3 weeks back, I've got a report to read. The student gave all the page numbers and so on, but the document itself didn't have page number. Just to tell you. List of figures. So we're starting in chronological order. List of figures. Same list of chronological order as they appear in the thesis, figure number and caption, and the page with the figure. This one is not in capital. It is in only the main part, like D, C, S, and so on. The main keyword or the first letter is in capital. And don't forget to have the page number as well. And then list of abbreviation. So we are working on the preliminary pages. List in alphabetical order all the abbreviation which appear in the body of the thesis. Again, mistake which students do. They list in chapter 1, they see AIDS that we have covered, abbreviation AIDS, AIDS. They put it here. Just after that, they got maybe, I don't know, something coming with, what do you have? Maybe PCC. They put it second. Then you have EDB coming in chapter 2. They put EDB third. So they just do it as they appear in the document, which is wrong. Because these are abbreviations. Someone has seen an abbreviation in the document. They're just going to go through it. They're just going to look for that in alphabetical order. That's why I put that in red and bold here, alphabetical order. You need to have this in alphabetical. And remember, if this is A capital, this is A capital, and so these should be capitalized. Acknowledgement. Haha, you want good grades. This is where you work. So a thesis research is really the accomplishment of one person alone. You would agree with me. Acknowledgement, humbly recognize, help receive in the execution of the research and in the preparation of the thesis. Okay, definitely you need help. You're going to get help. You ask for help. First and foremost, definitely what I would do is to thank the Almighty. Okay, then express your gratitude to your supervisor for his invaluable support and guidance. Even though you met with him 1 or 2 times and so on, he is the one giving you the first marking. Express your gratitude to him. But don't pass GBR and GBR keep exister. Be like straight to the point, but don't pass trop margarine. And GBR, okay. Okay. Appreciation to your parents, your wife, your ex-girlfriend, and so on, whatever you like. The support of software for research, usually at times, not usually, but at times when you're using a specific software for research, the researcher, the company don't ask you to pay. They can sponsor research, the software for research purpose. So you need to acknowledge that. So you need to thank maybe Dixalet, different software which you use, which has been given to you. And at times you have grants, sponsor, and so on. You need to mention these people in there. It's important. It's form part of the thesis structure. Now the declaration, the key for you. It is a certification. It is important that you put the declaration page. It is a certification that the work in the thesis is your own work and has not been used for the award of any other degree. This is where, and students believe that we won't be knowing. Okay, there are some students who submitted, I had noticed I was a second marker for a student. He did an MBA. He submitted his proposal. He did his dissertation for an MBA. Then he was doing an MSc project management. I was a second marker. First marker did the job, good grades, that's good for him. But I was reading, I could feel that it was like, he tried to push it into the structure. It was not a correct structure because I could feel that he tried to get it into the framework that was required for MSc project management. And when you're reading it properly, you would feel that, you would know that, okay? And this is where we quote him. And he was self-plagiarizing himself. He submitted that for basically the same findings, okay? He just tried to turn it in such a way that is more project-oriented and so on. It doesn't work with me, by the way. So if you have published work for your thesis in journal before making a final submission, you must list complete references to avoid articles, to avoid self-plagiarism. So I had this issue. Okay, even though I'm very much à cheval on what we call referencing and so on, for my PhD, I got the sponsorship of Tech for the first 4 years, and Tech asked me for an abstract to put in their website, on their website, because they are paying our fees and so on. And I gave them the abstract to publish that on their website. I didn't know, they just published that on their website. Then I was submitting my MPhil to PhD transfer report. And when it went on to Turnitin, Papa, I don't know, maybe 30%. I said, but it's my own work and there's no one who could do my work because my field of research was specific and I was working for a specific thing there cannot be someone else doing the same. But how do we get 30%? So then when we check the referencing and so on, I was plagiarizing myself because this publication that they have on tech website, it matched. So it's not only about previous work submission. They're going to what we call Turnitin. It's going to check for different website, papers submitted, student work submitted, and so on. They have a full database. And this is where, so I had to modify the submission, the abstract, and so on. And remember, it's technical. You need to be careful about because it can change the full meaning. So I had to check around and even reference my own work to avoid what we call self-plagiarism. So be careful about that. Abstract now, what you put in an abstract is what we call, in other terms, an executive summary. So what is an executive summary? The executive of a company is a managing director. He don't have time to read your report, page 1, page 2, page 3. Hey, I have only 5 minutes for your report. Give me a summary. This is it. Executive summary. It's a summary for the executive highlighting the main points. Now you're giving that as an abstract to your report. So let's see. A mandatory requirement to a thesis that should encapsulate the essence of the work by describing 3 main components. So how to write an abstract is 3 main components. Let's see. Why you did the work. So you should define the problem. Don't say, I did that, but why did you do that? Define the problem first. And what you were trying to achieve, what was the aim? This should be 25% of your abstract. I'm going to give you the number of words for the abstract. This should be 25% of the abstract. Then what methods you use, what results you obtain. Remember, the abstract comes first in your, not first, but in the preliminary pages in your report, but it is written last. Abstract is written last because then you have the result that you can put in there. Okay, so start with the problem statement. What you were trying, what was the aim of the research? 25%. If it is 100 words, which is usually it is more, is going to be 25 words. If it is 200 words, it's going to be 50 words. Number 2, what method you use? How maybe you use the software, you use questionnaire, you use research methodology, and so on. And what did you obtain? What are the findings? What was the result? 50% in terms of work. So half or 50% of the abstract should be discussing about the method and the results you obtain. And lastly, what you concluded. So this is your finding that you have put in B, your result. How does that help society? What have you concluded? Is it like only for your study or can it be generalized? What are future research prospects? 25%. And it gives you 100%. So usually an abstract is very concise, not concise, it's very concise. And it is between 300 and 500 words, 1 or at most 1.5 pages. Include all the salient features of the research. It takes time to write an abstract, maybe 1 or 2 days just for that. Remember, you have all the information because your report is ready just to write concisely. It is a skill in itself. Okay. So tables, images, illustration, references are not included in the abstract. No referencing in the abstract. Okay. Abstract written in the past tense as you are describing what you have done, except for the outline for further research. Okay. If you're proposing further research, this can be in the future, or what the research might lead to where the future tense can be used, but generally it's in the past tense. The abstract is usually written at the end of the writing the dissertation. No new information should be introduced. This is the evil, because when you have concluded, you have work on your report and so on, you get new ideas because you're a master now of this field. You have been working on that for several months. You're mastering, you're a small master of this field. You have information and you want to impress, and you give new materials in the abstract, and this is where you get negative marking. Usually you don't get negative marks. There's no negative marking, but you lose marks. Okay, you don't introduce new subject, new ideas in the abstract. Okay, a summary, concise summary of what you have done, the different things that we have discussed. Abstracts usually have keywords, usually in alphabetical order, separated by a semicolon. You know about a semicolon, okay? So keywords can be maybe sustainability, renewable, green, things like that, okay? Usually 3 to 4 keywords, not more than that. Don't put 10 keywords. It's no longer keyword. The structure now, let's get into the business. The standard thesis structure. Why standard? Because it can change from field to field, okay? This is a generally accepted one. Chapter number 1 is introduction, where we have the problem statement, the aim, scope, and then we give a thesis overview. Important part, because problem statement and aim and scope, student give. What they don't give is a thesis overview. What is a thesis overview? You need to tell the reader what is coming in chapter number 2, chapter 3, number 4, and so on. You need to tell them that, okay? Then chapter number 2, generally maybe 99% of field, it is literature review. Chapter number 2, where you go for secondary, the existing data of your research topic. Okay, usually we start with a funnel structure, a funnel approach where you take it broadly, then you funnel down to your specific and you attack, you aim, you focus on this specific, what we call topic that you have chosen, the fields, specific one. Chapter number 3 is the methodology. What is the approach that you adopted to be able to find answers to your problem? Okay. Then you've got synthesis, research, analysis. You evaluate your results, your findings, and so on. You get results, and then you conclude. This one, chapter number 4. At times there are some students who put that into 2. They split it into 2 chapters. One is findings. It just puts a graph and so on. And then they have another chapter where they discuss about the findings. For me, I advise my student to have it merge. At chapter 4, synthesis, so you put the graph and you give the explanation directly. What does that go? Else someone will just need to go back to chapter number 5, chapter number 4, go back. So it's a bit clumsy. I believe that if you have the graph, just discuss about it right away. Okay, then ultimately chapter number 5 is the conclusion, the recommendation, quite short. Important for you, okay, where the loopholes are, the document and version management. You're going to start your document, isn't it? But where do you keep that? I've had students where they have been visited by what we call thief. The thief stole their laptop. So they say, I don't want the laptop. You can take the laptop, but give me my file. Give me my dissertation file. Please, please, please. But can we avoid that? Yes. Backup. CD, DVD, external hard drive, USB, email, cloud, so many things. Okay, but back it, Papa. Back it. It's not the first time. Maybe 2 or 3 times I've already got this from a student. And then, yes, you are backing, but then which one is the latest file which I've worked? So you need to have a version, a thesis version, maybe V version 1.1, 1.2, up to you to name it, or you can put the date. So whenever you're working, you should be working on the latest copy. And when you're backing up as well, you need to be able to back the latest and maybe one version before that, because it may get corrupted. So know how to work this out, but backup. Okay. Now, project management, so important. Is a skill that you need to develop before even attempting the dissertation. You need to learn a bit about project management, because what happens when deadline comes too close? This is it. You can see very good chapter number 1, very good chapter number 2, chapter number 3, 50%, chapter number 4, oh my God. Shoo, because time is running out. The student is just getting a few results, tac, 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 and so on, and travail bâclé. This is what we get when deadline comes. So what can you do? What can you use? You can use, I have prepared a Gantt chart. It's like in Microsoft Excel for my student. More detail like this one, but this gives you an idea. Okay, activities, month, or you can put the date here. When do you plan to start your chapter number 1? How much time would you need for literature review? You plan it well in advance, because it is said that failing to plan is planning to fail. I don't believe you're planning. If you are here, happy hour time, so many of you, you're not planning to fail, but planning to pass. Okay, failing to plan is planning to fail. It's not you. Okay, so financial resources, if you need, because at times or some students, they need financial resources to go about with the project, they need to buy components and so on. Check whether you have financial resources. shipping of component. Some students do what we call hardware project. They need to source parts, Arduino, kit, resistor, and so on. They don't have it in Mauritius. They need to procure that, and it takes time. When I was at my BEng degree, I ordered, not I ordered, the university ordered parts for me for my hardware project. And I had the time, I already graduated, then I knew that the parts reached Mauritius. So a few weeks before the deadline, I had to switch from hardware to software. Okay, but I did it, but I don't want it to be like a stress for you. Okay, so it was the same project, but had just to model that on Simulink then. Okay, but take care of what shipping of, how much time it can take. Okay, and do you need a license for software? I had a group of students, MSc project, another MSc project, MSc student, electrical engineering. They needed a software. The software is free. So software is free, and we were working on that in the pandemic. Okay, close and everywhere, but we were communicating. But you need to send a form, an application. Software is free, but you need to send an application form, not by mail, but ordinary post. And you remember when all the planes were grounded, the postal system was down. So we had to wait. We waited 1 month and so on, but we know that, hey, this is not working. We need to shift to another software. Okay, so just be careful about these things which can affect your timeline. Okay, so work on a Gantt chart. So if you don't know, research that and see what Gantt chart means and start working on that. Part 1, introduction. So let's see what the chapter introduction. We're going to go through the different chapters, not deeply, but at least highlight the main point. So an introduction is typically written for a wider readership, but than the bulk of the text. So introduction is, as the name suggests, it's an introduction of this, and you're introducing the topic. Okay, it's not like highly technical, but it's just setting the scene. Okay, and then so explain what the thesis is all about. Establish a context within the broad area of research. So you need to take it from a broad area. I'm going to talk about sustainability. I'm going to discuss about how do you call it, the French law and the English law system in Mauritius. So you say you're talking about law, so many things about law, but I'm going to focus. So you take it wide and you bring it here. Then you're going to drill further down later on. This is a background. What is a problem being investigated? We call that a problem statement. What is a problem all about? Tell us about the problem. So this is what we call the knowledge gap. The problem statement is the knowledge. This is where there's no knowledge as such. You want to confirm something, you want to check, you want to verify something, that you call the knowledge gap. It's so important. If you don't have any problem, what are you doing? There's no research if there's no problem. Okay. Next is, what do you propose? So this is a problem. What is your problem? How are you going to achieve that? What are your objectives? Okay. You have one aim, usually one aim, but several objectives. Steps to achieve them. So objectives are, how do you achieve the aim? Step number 1, step number 2, step number 3. So objective should be specific, measurable, and achievable. It should not be that I'm going to do a good dissertation. What is good? Remember, good is subjective. I'm going to, so this is where you have those, what we call hypothesis testing and so on. You can put that in there, what you want to check. Exact, precise, because you will need to, at the end, in the conclusion part, to say whether you have been able to achieve the aim of this study. Okay, and how far have you been? If you don't have measurable means, how would you say how far you have been able to achieve that? Next is, why is it so important, significant? What is the motivation? Yes, I'm doing research to see which one is better, what we call red pen or blue pen. But what is the motivation for that? Okay, for correcting assignment, which one is better, blue pen or red pen? So what is the motive? It's not add value to people. Okay, what is your motivation for that? What is included or excluded? Constraint or assumption? So this is what we call the scope. Because at times when you talk about this subject, it's wide. But you will see that due to time constraint, we are limiting it to University of Mauritius. You are not extrapolating it to the different universities you have around Mauritius or across Africa or across the world. Okay, so what is included? What is, you need to mention that. What is your plan? Remember, the thesis structure is what we call the outline of the thesis. It should be in your chapter number 1. This is the ending part of the chapter before the summary part. Then you have what we call the summary at the end. So each chapter has an introduction and a summary. each chapter. We are not talking about the conclusion chapter. Each chapter introduction, chapter literature review, chapter methodology, has an introduction to the chapter and a summary to the chapter. In the introduction, we tell the reader what we are going to say in this chapter. Let's say for chapter number 2, literature review, in this chapter, we are going to go through the various research articles which talk about sustainability and so on. You tell them, and then we are going to discuss I'm just putting that in active voice. We are going to discuss the several advantages and disadvantages of sustainability and why Mauritius is not ready for sustainability, patati patata, and so on. You give the overall picture introduction. In the summary now, so then you develop your different points in the body of the literature review. Then at the end of this chapter, you have a summary. In this chapter, the main aspect of sustainability were discussed. Initially, it was all going to be discussed, so it's a bit future-based. This one were discussed. It was found that, and so on. Then definitely you can give a last sentence, just connecting it to chapter number 3, which is methodology. These findings of the literature review is going to pave the way to the methodology chapter. That's it. Then you move to chapter methodology. Usually the introduction is around 5 to 10 pages. Okay. Each chapter should have an introduction and summary. This is done. This is how I presented my outline for my MBA on the left. Format of the study. I'm going to read that quickly for you. Chapter number 1 introduces the topic of the dissertation and sets the stage for the background of the research problem, the problem statement, the aim of the study, the research objective, the research question, and the significance of the study. Then I move to chapter number 2. So this is an outline, what we call the format of the study. Chapter number 2 takes the reader through an in-depth discussion of the pertinent literature, reviewing the fundamental as well as the elaborate aspect of succession planning. So my topic was succession planning. These shall contribute in the construction of a theoretical framework for the research. Then I move to chapter number 3, chapter number 4, and then chapter number. I give the reader an idea how the structure, how the thesis is structured. This was for my MBA, and this is for my PhD. Slightly different, a bit architectural as well. Okay. And I put that introduction, chapter number 2, literature review. And for each chapter, I publish a paper for that. So this is going to add value to your work, because to be able to publish a paper, I'm speaking for those doing MSc by research or PhD. So, or even BEng, if you're publishing your paper, you say that, hey, my work has already been peer reviewed. So someone who said that it'll be checky here. So why bother, like, if it has been well, maybe drafted and verified, accepted for publication, it should be of a high level. So this gives a cushion, what we call a bias that, hey, this work is a good work. Okay, I'm speaking in the perspective of the examiner for you. So if you have it, put it. Chapter number 2, or part 2, the literature review. So let's see what Sir Isaac Newton said. I have seen further than others, it is by standing upon the shoulders of giants. So it is important for you to be able to do research. You need to go through what other people have done. You can't say, I'm going to do research by myself. Pioneer in the field. No, not now, maybe later on. Okay. But then you need to be able to see what other people have done. To be able to see further, you need to climb on their shoulders or even on their head. Climb on top of them, then you're going to see further. This is what Sir Isaac Newton said. Okay, it is a fundamental part of research, what you call the literature review. Okay, so to be approached in a systematic and organized manner to maintain a cohesive, logical flow while unraveling the topic. So definitely when you research, you do the literature review, you're going to get information in a haphazard manner and so on. You need to just copy, paste, put the referencing and so on. But then you need to structure it. You need to have a flow. When you're buying, there was an exercise, I think they call that Canva, or I don't know how they call that. So different pictures in disorderly way. It's up to the student, maybe from 3 or 4, to put that in the correct order and then tell the story. This is what we are trying to do here. Literature review is you have got different information. Now you put that in a structure. Okay, you got the information, you got the bulk. Now you need to put that in a proper format. This is a literature review. Adopt a funnel approach, starting with relevant history, context, current knowledge, then theory and practice, and other researchers' views, work, and contributions. So important. You get good marks for that. Okay, what other researchers have done. Share your, not opinion, but criticize. Have a critical eye on their work. Okay, developing critical thinking, collect, compare, contrast existing knowledge about the topic, which will allow the identification of the knowledge gap and purpose for the current research. This is what is going to give you the purpose of your research. The literature review when you read, and remember, you're going to get lost when you read. There's going to be one time when you say, I can't, it's too much. So now when you read this point, just, hey, I'm on the right track. Because there's going to be one point where you're going to get lost. It's too much of information, you won't be able to digest. This is where you need to stop, get a Cadbury, eat it, or a Kit Kat, whatever you like. If you don't like, you can give it to me. Then after one day, you get back. Things are going to be clearer for you. Okay, it forms part of the process. At one point in time where you're going to be suffocated, I would say, you're on the right track. A common loophole is not to conduct an extensive literature search, leading to incomplete reviews and biased views. This is what we get at times. We call that what we call heavy reliance on a specific source. The comment which we put is heavy reliance on a specific, because they have got a very good book which is telling them everything they need to know about their research. And they say, yes, they reference properly, very good. Mr. X said that, Mr. X said that, Mr. X demonstrated that, patati patata, Mr. X, Mr. X, Mr. X. What happens at the end is you're getting only the views of Mr. X, but we need Mr. Y as well. We need to hear, it's what we call contrasting views. We need to compare different views, different, not only 2, but 3, 4, 5 views. Then you can make up a decision, not a decision, but you need to find this gap. This is where I'm going to go. This is where I need to research. The conclusion to this chapter should lead clearly to the research hypothesis or research question that you pursue in your work. After this chapter, the main aim of this chapter is to give you to clarify the hypothesis, the research question, which is, this is what I'm going to do. This is my research. There's no article on that. There's no knowledge on that. This is where I'm going to do. And this is the output of this chapter. Importance of reading. Okay, quickly for that. Read for a problem to identify this is what you are looking for. You don't have a title. Read for a problem. Read for an argument. At times someone says it, but gouvernement bon pas bon. Je vais lire là, puis ouais, gouvernement bon, gouvernement peut faire, mais c'est même pas tout. T'as dit, zéro d'un qui dit gouvernement pas bon, c'est un argument, because you need argument, contrasting views for your research to make it interesting. Read for evidence. You know that maybe people, different countries are doing research for sending shuttles to the moon, outer space. You know it, but you need evidence. It's not about your opinion. Your opinion doesn't count unless it is supported. So where do you get this evidence? From reading. Get the books, get the journal publication. How to evaluate articles, examine. So you don't read, I've got 10, I've downloaded 10 journal articles, I'm going to read all of them. No, you won't have time. Examine, start in a correct format, in a correct way. Examine the title first. Read the abstract. If the abstract is interesting, so start with the title doesn't make sense, just drop it. Go to the next one. Read the abstract. If it is just, I think this is where I'm having, I think it's interesting for me. Read the abstract, then you read the article. Then you read the article quickly. If it makes sense to you, I think I've got it now. You read it deeply now. Okay, read the article. How to take note, what to record, how to organize your note. Different people have different ways of organizing their notes. Previously, I even started on a hardcover book to jot down the notes, but it was too time consuming. It's no longer. We have ways now. So you can put that on Microsoft Word. Aha. When you put that on Microsoft Word now, important idea, interesting thing, but remember to cover, or not to cover, but to get the reference right there. Because at times we say, I'm okay, I know where I've got that. Okay, but then when you need to put the referencing, you no longer know that. Time has passed. You no longer know that. So correct approach is whatever you get an idea, even though you won't use it. It may be that at the end you won't use it, but you got it just in case you need it. Put the referencing. I've got that in the book, page number, author, article, and so on. We are going to cover that in referencing, what you need to get, what you need to know, put it there. Part 3, the methodology. This is what we call the research method, usually, and it is maybe for introduction and literature review or findings and so on. It's going to be common to different fields, different faculty, different school, different universities, and so on, not universities, you know. Okay, but the chapter number 3, which is on research method, this is what separates us. Okay, engineering is going to be more simulation. Some other maybe humanities are going to be more on research method in terms of interviews, questionnaire, and so on. So it's a bit different. But generally speaking, let's see the research. What does that talk about? Method refers to the specific technique, and methodology refers to the stance you are taking as a researcher. So method is what is the technique you are using. Methodologies vary hugely depending on the field of study. Okay, as we said, there are some engineering topics they are going to do on simulation, hardware problem just to check and so on. Others may do some questionnaires, interviews, things like that. To discuss the various possible research methods that could be used. So what do you need to prove? It's too general. We won't get into that today. But what you need to do, you need to say why you have chosen this methodology, because there are different methodologies that you can adopt. Why have you chosen this one? Maybe in engineering, you have chosen a specific software. Why have you chosen this software? You need to compare the different software, which are maybe not all, but at least 3 different software which could have done the job. Compare. This one maybe is more expensive. This one has more flexibility, less of programming, is going to it run faster. All these are ways. So state the advantage and disadvantage. If you're using, maybe you need to compare qualitative and quantitative technique. If you're doing an MBA and so on. So say what is the difference? What are the advantages? Why you need to go for qualitative, quantitative? You need to be able to explain that. This is where you get the marks for this chapter. The marks on research methodology, which is chapter number 3, you need to be able to identify the different methods that you can use. Then say why you are going to use this one and not the other one. What is the main advantage of this one that the others do not have? Okay, or you can have what I did for me was like a marking system, because in one software was good in this way, not in the other way. So there's not one software which had all the advantages. No, I had a marking scheme. This is where you get the good marks for that. You are able to demonstrate that you know exactly, because not always you're going to use this methodology. Different instances, you can choose another methodology. You need to show that you know how to deliberate, how to choose a correct methodology and approach for your study. Justify your choice, okay, with clear reason. Okay, experimental validation requires an experimental design. Explain and justify that in detail. Ethical consideration. So ethical consideration, at times, if you're maybe doing a research in a company, you need to get their approval, okay? And maybe you need the information that you're going to collect over there is going to remain confidential information. The letter of approval, at times you need to put that in the appendix. And the choice of sample, why you have chosen this sample and why not, the pilot study, all these are considered in the research methodology. Yeah, that should be okay. Demographics data. This is amusing, I would say. It's funny. There are some students, many students, they will have questionnaire. Very, very famous way of collecting primary data, the questionnaire. And it's quite easy, relatively easy, not quite, but relatively easy. But I guess we need to have another session on just how to have questionnaire. Because demographics data is what you have at the beginning of the questionnaire. Are you male or female, or you don't know? Okay, it can be what is your age, different age group, 10 to 30, 30 to 40, and so on. What is your income? I don't know why they're going to use that. Where do you live? Are you married or not? Hey, or are you matrimonial company or what? Oh, so what they have done, it's not mostly on the students, about the supervisor as well. They need to be careful. They advise the student properly. To collect demographics data, you need to be able to demonstrate why you are collecting these data. What is going to help you in doing some findings. Maybe someone is married or not married. How will that help in your finding? the salary range, the salary scale of the person. How will that have an impact? Because what students do, that's why you, in terms of the question that you have asked in the form registration form, give you a sample. It's good to have a sample to get an idea, but some students they would try to copy. So in one study, maybe age group was important. Okay, it was fundamental maybe for decision making. It was relevant for that study. So they have just copied demographics data, male, female, age group, salary. I'm going to say correct. No, it needs to be relevant to your study. Okay, and I believe that in questionnaire preparation itself, we can have another maybe full session. How to prepare, what we call double barrel question. So many things when I get what we call reviews, how to review those questionnaires, you see a lot of that. Okay, so you need, and this is your data, your findings are going to be based on that. If it is not done properly, forget it. It's not going to not forget it, but you're going to lose lots of marks. You won't be able to interpret the results properly. Okay, let's move to chapter number 4 with data analysis and discussion. This is what we call data. We collect it. Okay, then we have an info, we can arrange that in terms of information, and this is what we call data analysis, and then the discussion is the information. To create knowledge is going to come mostly at the end in the concluding chapter. Okay, so this is data. Data is gathered by the researcher. We all know that. The mode of collecting data is variable, changes. It can change from research to research. In the lab, it can be data collected from the field, from a factory, and so on. Different ways of collecting data. Okay, you can have a lab experiment. Complete collection of data forms a framework for the next step in research methodology. Remember, it's so important. This is, yes, secondary data from research literature review is very important, but more important about what you are proposing. What are your work to help solving your research question? And then data processing and analysis, the resulting argument are used to build your case. So you need to be able to collect appropriate data, arrange that in the proper information. This is where we use Excel, SPSS, but that interpreting this result is what course knowledge. This is where you get the marks. Okay, just getting the data, putting that on Excel, SPSS, and so on, looking good, it's not enough. You need to interpret this data. Tell us what this data means. Some students use what we call statistical tests, and they use lots of statistical. I don't even know what they mean. Okay, even ANOVA very frequently use. I don't use that. My students use very simple one. Okay, mean, mode, median. At times, box and whisper, but even though not, because these simple one, mean, mode, median, the amount of analysis that you can do on that is fantabulous. Oh, what a beautiful word. Okay, so yes, I'm not telling you not to do these, but you need to understand what ANOVA is, what paired t-test is, what parametric t-test, what Kushal Wallis, I don't know who Wallis is it. You need to understand, first of all, it's not here, what baseline. I'm not telling you not to use that. You can, but don't use it just to fill in your chapter number 4, but you don't understand anything from the test, what it means. Just having the diagram and so on, it adds value, but little value. Most value comes from what we have, the interpretation that you get from these statistical tests. Okay, so don't try to fool the markup. They won't be fooled. Okay, presentation. We are still in chapter number 4. Do not include raw, undigested data in the body of the test, just to make it, my thesis was 200 pages, okay, 300 pages. No, keep it simple, okay? So put the data, the raw data that you are collecting, put that in the appendix. But the data representation in the graph and so on, before, when data moves to information, this is what you need to put in the chapter number 4. Identify the correct data representation technique, that is chart, table, diagram, figures, and so on. Now, it's good. You have so many bar chart, histogram, pie chart, box and whisper, so many things that you can have. But you need to select the appropriate one. And when I say the appropriate one, you should not be changing just to show that you can use pie chart, you can use this and so on. You just shift from here and there. I can use all of these. Let me show them. No, you need to be selective about it. Let's say if you need to demonstrate maybe age distribution, okay, you can put that in form of a table, okay, bar chart, but the best way would be a pie chart, because a pie chart gives you 100%. You have the percentages. You can say, hey, the big chunk of the respondent, maybe for a questionnaire, like nearly 50% were maybe in between 30 and 40 years. So you get a pictorial view. If you put that in terms of bar chart, people will need time to interpret. But there are some factors, some maybe analysis where you will need the bar chart, okay, to have the normal curve, to check what is the mean, mode, median, and so on. These mean, mode, median, oh my God, these are very powerful. That's why we learn it at primary school and so on, secondary school. You can do wonderful job, because my MBA dissertation, I'm not boasting, I did only mean, mode, median, and a bit of cross tabulation, okay, and I got the best dissertation in Africa, okay. No ANOVA, no t-test, test, patati patata. Keep it simple, but show that you understand, okay. So moving on, due to time, tables. We mentioned a bit about tables earlier on, how to write the caption and so on. Usually it's uppercase, usually, but check with your university if you're not from the University of Mauritius. Usually it is the caption should be on top of the table. On top of the table. Before the table, you have the caption of the table. Okay. And the table is not a bazaflair. Okay, you don't put a table and don't refer to it. No, if you put a table, you need in the text, it should be referred. So table 2.1 showed below refers to tac, you refer to it. Don't just put a table. It's not linked to any of your discussion. Okay, it should be included in the main text only after being mentioned in the preceding. So you don't put the table, then you mention it below. If you need to mention the table first, then you put the table. So the main text happening. So as can be shown in table 2.5, 2.5 comes below. You can't put that before. Okay, just be careful. It should be as far as possible self-explanatory. So all the text, the numbering, note, and so on, everything is in there. All the rows and columns should be properly labeled, the units if needed. All the intended parameters or the intended patterns or trend visible, or are they just figures? If you don't see the trend, you need to have a bar chart. Bar chart is going to give you the trend. Okay, pictorial is better than tables usually. But if you need the values, then you can have table. Figures now, you need to have the caption, but the caption is below the figure. Remember, for table, it was on top of the table. For figure, it is below the figure. Refer to it in the main text, same as for table. It's not a bazaflair. If you have it, you need to refer to it. Figure words that you can use: shows, illustrates, displays, portrays. Remember, capture all these words. This is where you can use a synonym. Okay, it's going to beautify your academic writing. If taken from a secondary source, figure should be referenced. So even figure, maybe in chapter number 2, literature review, if you have copied it from a textbook and so on, you need to put the reference. Don't use source, IXO, and so on. Use Harvard style. Clearly visible, fully labeled, good quality. It's not blurred or pixelated. Okay, good quality. If you need to redraw it, papa. Okay, self-explanatory, appropriate scales, legend, and axes must be labeled. All figures and so on, you know about that. You have been doing that since primary school or maybe secondary school. The labeling of axes should be, you should have it all. Graph or chart, does it have both axes clearly labeled? At times people don't label it. They refer to maybe the caption to be able to get that. No, it should be labeled. Okay, is a text legible? Or lines and other features appropriately labeled? At times it may be you may be putting that in color, but someone may be reading the report in black and white. If they have a printed report, it's black and white. So this is where you use the dash line. You can put that in color, but you can put that in dash line and solid line as well. Just to, if ever someone is reading that in printed form and black over white paper. Key legend available or proper, or they available. What does that mean? Colors, we talk about that. Let's take an example of this one. Appears to be good. Percentage of vote and so on, but what are missing? What is missing? The figure caption, there's no caption to the figure. And then percentage of vote. What is percentage? It's what is relating to what? It's incomplete, the title itself. And then what are the percent? We can't see. We can see this one, the big blue is more than 50%, but you should have label the different, maybe 50%, 54, 1%, 2%. You should label it properly. Then the colors are hard to match. So which one is this one? Is it other? Is this NZ1? Is it national? We have 1 blue, 2 blue, and 3 blue. It's too small. We are not able to match it properly. Or you can even have that next to it. This can be done. Okay. In terms of graph or what we call figures, let's say this one, you see it's increasing from 1999 to 2004. Oh my God, a sharp increase. Let's see. Let's see the scale now. Let's say 16 to 21. But if you change the scale, the correct scale from 0 to 20, you see it is an increase, but it is soft increase. It's not sharp increase as the other one, what we're trying to show. Okay, there's a sharp increase. No, it's not sharp increase. You put it, we use it in the proper scaling, there's no sharp increase. Okay, just like that. It's plummeting. No, it's not a small change here. Okay, just put that the relative position should be proper. Now, such a graph, what is this label? You have the x-axis, y-axis, looks good. Okay, but what is missing? Why do we need to have 100 to 25? We are not using this space. Okay, this space that you have here, for what? Okay, so we can rearrange, we can maybe magnify the graph just to give you the important information in more details. You get more details about what needs to be made available. Discussion on the finding. All the findings from the data analysis process should be discussed by comparing with the findings on the literature review. While you got your figure, you arrange that properly, up to you. Now you need to discuss. This is the last portion to convert. Data was converted to information, information to knowledge. You are finding knowledge. No, you need to refer, because what did you get from the literature review? Ideas to do your research, to get questions. You came up with questions and you are trying to find answers. Have you been able to find the answers? You need to, the findings that you get, refer that. Not refer, but connect that to the findings from the literature review. This is where you get the big grades. Okay, establish and show this link clearly. Tips for you, what I tell my students, this is not in chapter 4, but it comes in chapter number 5. Remember, you have one aim and maybe 3 to 4 objectives. I ask my students to list these objectives in the concluding chapter. List them and then say, I have been able, not I is active voice, but I'm just for the sake of discussion, I have been able to achieve this by this figure, tac, tac, tac. Objective number 2 has been achieved by shown in figure or discussion of part 3. You give a big description of that. So you demonstrate, because the author, not the author, the marker, he's going to mark, have you been able to achieve the objective? And then he's going to read, yeah, I think, yes, you can see, but don't make him see. Don't make him maybe look for the answer. Give him the answer, Papa. Give him the plateau, Dala. Okay. Research objective, I've been able to find it. Research objective number 2, I've been able to find it. Number 3, I've been able. Don't you want plateau, Mama? Facile. Right policy pola. Okay. Have the knowledge gap identified in the literature review. Have the knowledge gap identified in the literature review been addressed? This is what I was telling you. Sure, there was a knowledge gap. I've been able to do it. Or if you have not been able to do it, just say what went wrong. Not wrong, but what could have been done better for you to be able to achieve it, so that you understand what were your limitations. Explain the strengths or limitations of the study. Explain what impact the knowledge gained from the present study would have on the future management of the problem. This is what we can, because you're a little master now of this topic. You're not the full master, but you have been there for 6 months, 8 months on that. Okay, in fait, Cosmo, tout ça fait là. I had a dream, n'est-ce pas? Martin Luther King. But then you can advise others. This is what needs to be done. We need to go deeper into that. Should you another software to simulate that and so on? The population needs to be bigger because this sample size was not okay. Patati patata. Next is concluding part, last chapter. Okay. Reiterate the main findings of the research. Draw your conclusions solely from the discussion chapter. Don't introduce new things in there. Establish a logical link between the research aim, objective, and the findings. This is what I was telling you. Show it. Put that in your conclusion. It's going to bring you marks, believe me. Reference to the limitation of your work, that is geographical. Maybe you need a bigger population. You did that for any University of Mauritius. You need to get hold of all the different students from the other universities as well. Suggestion for future possible research. Comment on the implication of there was a question in the list of questions you sent me. You say, what is the difference between conclusion and recommendation? In conclusion, you give all these things, okay? And part of it is a recommendation, because you need to say my findings. This is my finding. Then what do you what can we do with your findings? This is a recommendation. What are the implications of your research? Conclusion should be crisp and concise, approximately 3 to 5 pages. Okay. So summary of what we have just seen in thesis structure. Introduction, problem statement, chapter number 1. It gives approximately 10% of the mark. 10% of your marks for your dissertation come from the chapter number 1. Remember, it's about 5-6 pages. I don't remember exactly. Maybe around 8 pages should be maximum. 10% you get. Literature review, 20% of the mark. Just seeing what other people have done gives you 20 marks. Methodology, which method you use, why, and so on, 10%. Synthesis, result, and analysis, all the graph, your discussion, and so on, 30%. The biggest chunk, chapter number 5, conclusion, recommendation, to check whether you have been able to achieve the aim, and if you're not, why you have not been able to achieve 20%. So these are the mark distribution. Hey, we stop here. It should be summing up to 100%, n'est-ce pas? Why is it when we sum up it's 90%? Where is the 10%, the extra 10%? Why is it not attributed to any of these chapters? This is where referencing comes in, the what we call the academic writing, the first part of our today's session, okay, where we talk about the comma, punctuation, passive voice, active voice, what we call different things, okay, how to write it properly and so on. This is this, and referencing contribute to 10%. Technically 10%, but generally more than 10%, because literature review, if you're not being able to write appropriate academic writing, is going to bring down your marks for literature review. Same for methodology. Maybe for your results, the graph are not okay. This is what we discuss in academic writing. The graph, the tables, and so on, not proper. You're going to lose 30%. Your marks is going to go down. Okay. Now, if someone has done good results, okay, 30%, they say, yes, you got 30% in terms of the results and so on. But poor literature review, poor chapter number 1. So they use all, like chapter number 1, chapter number 3 is already 30%. Academic writing, poor academic writing is already 40% down. So you get only 60 mark. And if you have a very solid like set of findings, it's 60 mark. If you get 30% over that, okay. But usually, even though an average student, okay, they can get, if you go according to what has been shared today, you got a good, powerful, what we call introduction. Literature review is just getting information that you already have, okay. Methodology, maybe you get 5% of methodology, but 10, 20, 35, you do good referencing, because referencing comes mostly in literature review. The academic writing is okay. Then maybe synthesis literature, you get maybe 15%. Conclusion, recommendation, 10%, you already got good grades for an average student. Now imagine if you are a hard worker. If you are still around at this point in time, this means that you are a hard worker. So you're not going to go for 60%, believe me. So you can achieve easily an A in your dissertation component. Okay. Allow me, I know I told you that it's going to be a long one, but I need to have a last spot of what we call Harvard style of referencing, which is not too much, but I just need to highlight, to pick a few things to make you aware about the referencing, and then plagiarism. And then we have a last spot on the, what maybe we have already discussed on the examiner's perspective. Quickly now, let's run through that. So research data, we have mentioned about the use of primary data, where you need to submit your own finding, and then secondary data, which comes from existing research, existing literature. Okay. Next, we have use of other work to support. Remember what Isaac Newton said, you need to climb on the shoulders of others to see further. So it forms parts, getting data from others. But what is this plagiarism thing? Okay. This means that you need to acknowledge these work. When you're looking for work already done by others, other researchers, other students, you need to acknowledge these. How to acknowledge? Using referencing, proper referencing mechanism to avoid the plagiarism trap. So proper referencing, it shows commitment, responsibility, seriousness to the academic writing and to your own work. Let me give you a tip from a marker. I'm putting myself in the form in my shoes as a marker. I get a dissertation to mark. Okay, I just open the first few pages. Remember the preliminary pages. Okay, I just have a look. I just read the introduction chapter. Okay, where you have the problem statement and so on. I just go back to the list of references. This gives me an idea about how many marks this student is going to get. I need not, I will read, definitely, if I'm an official reader, I've been appointed second marker, first marker, I will read the full report. But this gives me this impression, the preliminary pages, the introduction, and the list of references. I can tell you 80% of the time I'm correct. The grading which I'm supposed to be giving the student, if I before I just read these 3 parts and I read the full dissertation, 80% I'm correct in terms of my grading. Because if a student has taken the pain, seriousness of doing a good not literature, but the referencing, because it takes time, it is tedious, it is painful. If they have taken, they can give you an idea about this student. And I'm telling you that from experience. Okay, so readers can refer to these references. So why do we need to have referencing? To acknowledge first, and to, if I need additional information, I can go to this paper and read furthermore. Okay, shows you have read widely. Lots of, not, so when I say you have read widely, not just the referencing, maybe 2,000 references I've read widely, a volume only in referencing. No, it needs to be consistent. It needs to be what we call reliable as well. You get marked for proper referencing, 10% referencing and academic writing. Okay, so plagiarism, act of deliberately, like intentional, is it deliberate or inadvertently? I didn't know, just like me, I was plagiarizing myself. So Turnitin found it because I didn't know Tech has published that on their website. So this is inadvertently presenting someone else's ideas as own. So this is my work as plagiarizing myself, but Turnitin was saying that, but you can plagiarize someone else. Okay, no one will know, no people will know you're going to be, and if even though there are some people who have even graduated, even PhD holders graduated in Cheffoto Portu, okay, in doctor, etc. Then after 1 or 2 years, they have, it has been seen that they have plagiarized, they are stripped of their degree and so on. They're kicked off from the university. Okay, so in the academic arena, plagiarism is regarded very seriously, and the result is disciplinary action. Avoid plagiarism through proper, so you can avoid it through proper referencing. So what is referencing about is a standard practice for acknowledging information sources in academic writing. Many universities opt for the Harvard style of referencing, which we call the author date system. If you're writing a conference paper, if you're writing a journal paper, the referencing may be different. But here we're sticking mostly to dissertation component, where we stick to the Harvard style of referencing. So what does that comprise of? We have what we call, number one, the in-text citation. Okay, what we have in the main body. Then we have a bibliography, which we call the list of references. I repeat, referencing, Harvard style of referencing, split into 2 parts. Number one, in-text citation. Number 2, the list of references, which we call also bibliography. So there are slight variations of the Harvard style. It is recommended to check with your institution before starting. Generally, what I'm going to share with you applies for the University of Mauritius. When you have it, you can download that as well from the university website. So step number 1, record accurately. You can use software or manual, that is recording in your copybook or maybe in your manual, whatever you are taking, or what usually students do, they record that on Microsoft Word. You get an idea, you copy paste it on Microsoft Word, then you put the referencing. Later on, you're going to paraphrase and so on. Step number 2, organized systematically. So you have software which you can, I don't use. I use only Microsoft Word. I'm from the old school. I prefer to have full control. You can use EndNote, Mendeley, RefMe, Zotero, or Word document filing. Whatever you want, up to you. There's no hard and fast rule. Whatever suits you, whatever you're comfortable with, you can use. Step number 3, cite appropriately using the guidelines, which I'm going to cover shortly. Step number 4, reference properly using the correct punctuation and consistency. Remember a bit about punctuation, the comma, semicolon, and so on. We're going to come back to that in terms of referencing, and you need to be consistent. Now, what is meant by paraphrase? Okay, so we said that we took an idea from an author. We cannot put it word for word in the document. It's going to be plagiarism. Whether it's not whether you reference and so on, it's bad academic. So I'm going to rephrase what I'm just saying. If you take a paragraph or a sentence from an author, you put that in your document, you don't reference, it's plagiarism. You put that in the document word for word, you reference, it's called bad academic practice. Okay, what is a correct way? It's about getting the idea. Then you paraphrase, you change the sentence structure in your own words. This is what we call paraphrasing. So you paraphrase when you change the information read into your own words without changing the original meaning. Why paraphrase? It shows that you understand what the writer is saying. It makes easier to build your own, because you have your own, remember the style, you have your own style of putting things. If you just get from one author to author and so on, they have different ways of putting it, and it's going to be a bit messy. So get the idea, but put that in your own word and then cite it, reference it. So to fit your organized style, let's see. Original, you have borrowed that from an author. Employers who provide childcare at the workplace have found that lateness decline and the level of stress experienced by the employees also decline. This is the idea. If we paraphrase that now, there's evidence to suggest that on-site daycare is beneficial to employers because employees are more punctual and appear to suffer less from the stress. So there are 3 key terms that you can't change, like stress. Okay, instead of using levels of stress, they have just used stress. Okay, and there is what we call declines. So lateness declines. They have just used different terms, but the idea is the same. And you see, they have put what we call the Harvard style, which is the surname and the year. This is a Harvard style of reference. And you see, after stress, there's no full stop here. Popular mistake, some students put a full stop here. There's no full stop here. The full stop is that there's no comma even there. Okay, the full stop is here and there's a comma here. Moving on. Quickly now, okay, the book, if you have a book with one author, parameters that you need, this is when you are, when I say parameters, is when you are copying in your book or in a Word document. These are the information that you need to collect, because later on you will need these information to form the list of references and so on. Remember, in a Harvard style is half into in-text citation. Okay, then you have the reference list. So how do you put that in-text citation? According to British Consulate, okay, you open bracket, Guy, which is a surname of the author, then you put the year. And if you want, you can put the page number, which is not compulsory to put the page number. Okay, you just put, you open bracket, surname, year, you close bracket. If you want to put the page number, you put the page number. Now, if you put P here, you put a full stop. It's what we call consistently. Everywhere in your document, you have page number. You need to put P.37. Don't say at times you put P 49, at times PP page for page number, it's 52. No, stick to one. If you put P.37, stick it throughout. Okay, if there's no data available, Guy, you put no date. Okay, if the date is approximate, because let's say it was talking about the 2022 World Cup, but there's no date for that. You can put circa, C dot the year. Circa means approximate date. Then it can happen that you have books from the same author in the same year. So it can be, then you're going to write A and B here. Okay, just to differentiate which book it is referring to. Okay, now this is the first part. Okay, second part of the referencing, the reference list. So the guy, the surname should be written in capital, comma, the other name, but you don't write the full name. It is about Joseph, whatever, you write the first what you call prénom. Okay, the first name is the surname, the name. If it has maybe Joseph Alphonse with a G.A.C, whatever, full stop, comma, the year, then it is a full stop. Remember, the surname, comma, the other name, the first initial, full stop. So after, let's say it was J, Alphonse, Corinne, whatever, then you put it, then it is a year. So after each alphabet of the name, you put a full stop, comma, the year, full stop, the view across the river. Okay, see the name of the book, it should be in italics. The name of the book should be in italics. You put full stop, Charlottesville, Virginia. This is what we call the edition, the publication, and the way it has been published. Okay, if it comes from the same author, reference the same. This is what we have here, this one. Okay, so you put A and B here. That is the same, only difference that you're going to have. Now, if you have 3 authors, okay, up to 3 authors, let me just check, 2 or 3 authors. So same, research by Banerjee and Watson, 2 authors. This one is another way. Let me just go back. No, this one is, you see, you have put it guy and the year and so on in bracket in the middle of a sentence. It is one way of having in-text citation. Another way is to put the subject of the formula, the subject of the sentence itself by the author. They are suggesting. So research by Banerjee and Watson, you put the year in bracket, suggest. Okay, or you could have said that maybe a research, maybe some researchers suggest that Monday should be no work day. Then you open bracket, you put Banerjee and Watson, comma, 2001, you close bracket. So you put the author after that. So you can put that in the sentence itself, or you put that in bracket. 2 ways of having in-text citation. Okay. And if you have, there are some people who are going to write, if it is in the, what we call the sentence structure, it is A and D. But if you write it as we have just written here, which is not good, we have put N, it should be this end. But these are minor mistakes, I would say. If ever you write A and D here, it is not a big mistake. However, you should not, maybe for the first one, you write N like this. Other one coming after, maybe Boss and Rolf. You write A and D. So this is what we call inconsistency. Here it's N, here it's A and D. This is what we call inconsistency. If you stick to this N here, you need to have it everywhere in the document. Okay, it's what we call consistency. Now, in terms of references, this is the first part of referencing, Harvard. This is part 2. You write the surname, first surname, Banerjee in capital, name, full stop, and what is Watson. You see, this one has 2 names, T.F. comma, the year, full stop, the author, the title of the book in what we call italics, comma, full stop, Oxford University Press. Okay, same here. Okay, so you have this, what we call Harvard style of referencing document on the website of university. So download it, get used to it, print it, you will need that. Okay, now if you have more than 3 authors, if you had 10 authors, whatever, as far as it is more than 3 authors, we use what we call étal, which is an italic term, which means n others. Étal means n others when you have more than 3 authors. So we don't write all authors. Okay, so this was proved by Dim et al. Remember, 5 years back or 3 years back, et al was written in italic. Nowadays, the trend is to write it straight, no italic. Okay, this was shown by Woodin et al. Now, this is for in-text citation, part 1. Okay, but in the list of references, what we call the bibliography, part 2 of referencing Harvard style, you need to put all the authors. If it had 10 authors, you put all 10 authors' name. You don't put dim et al. Here. You need to put it fully. Okay, so dim c.l, the name, little, patati patata, and so on. You need to put all the different authors. The remaining, the remaining true, this one is in italic, the edition and so on, you can write. Okay. Then you have, this one is on newspaper online. Okay, in hardcover article, maybe this one will just skip it quickly. And the year, the author, okay, the year and so on. But there's no, the article name is not in italic. Okay, these are important. What should be in italic? Remember, for the book, the first three that we have seen were books. The title of the book is in italic, but here it's only the not the title, but the title of the web page. Where you have got the online article, this one is in comma, in inverted comma. Okay, then you have a comma, it's not a full stop, a comma. The press, this is the newspaper. It can be for us, it can be what we call Défi Media, not Défi Media, but Défi is a newspaper, L'Express. Okay, this is going to be in italic, but the title of the article is not in italic. Then you put the date, available at, since it's online, it needs to have available at, the full name, okay, and then when it was accessed. So for online referencing, additionally, you should have this one, and the italics and full stop, comma, and so on. You need to be careful about that. Okay, needed for you to learn it by heart, but get your small manual by yourself. I think it's 2 pages or 2 pages, I think. And that you will be using books, online, and maybe journal publications. That's it. At least 3 or 4. This is what a conference paper looks like. Okay, the in-text is going to be the same. Okay, the surname and the year, but the references is going to be different. The Jones, and as this one, you know, the title of the what we call paper is going to be inverted commas. Okay, single one. And then the workshop on, this is the title of the conference, workshop on referencing in universities and so on. This one is in italic. Okay, the title of the conference. I think I've put it here, title of the conference in italic and so on for the way, but the best is to apply, to see it in front of you, how they have put that. Website, individual author. I will leave that for you to read, because the journal article and so on, these are what the common ones. Okay, let's go to the common errors, which I believe we have covered. Punctuation. Okay, we covered where to put the comma and so on. Common error, over reliance on a specific source. We did cover that at one point in time. Okay, we see only one book. You're referring to only one book throughout, so you're going to have a biased views. And all references. We mentioned that quickly, but let's say for IT field, you need to move quickly. Maybe 1 year, 2 year is relevant. Else, if it is 5 years old for IT, it's already all information. Okay. The sources, usually we say your sources should be reliable, like Wikipedia. You can't use Wikipedia. Okay, it's not a reliable source. There's no authority in there controlling that. So we say that your sources should be crop, but a good crop. Crop means current. C means current. Is the information still valid today, or is it obsolete? Has it been revised? Has it been updated? It should be relevant. Does it relate to the subject? Is it credible? Or is it someone, a blog, he's having a blog of every day after school, he just write a few things and so on. And you say, this is what you call, we need to reference that. No. So a blog from someone, from a student, from someone, or anyone is not reliable. Maybe if Robin Sharma, who is regarded as a leadership expert, he has a blog, then maybe you can refer that because he has worldwide recognition in leadership. This can be done, but generally speaking, blog and so on are not credible sources. Does it like authoritative, Wikipedia, blog, authors? So check the author's credential. Who are these authors? Because nowadays, everyone is like an authority in something. They're expert in everything. Okay. Accurate, all the data validated, supported by funding research. That's why we have what we call methodology. So we choose an appropriate method to come up with ideas, with findings, but other people, they just interrogate 2 or 3 people and they come up with a conclusion. No. Okay, so we need to have a proper, the data that they are providing us should be validated data. We can't just pick up values from anywhere and then. Purposeful, so it is a fact, an opinion, and so it's an opinion. How can they substantiate that? Okay, can you use that? Okay, maybe Premier ministre peut causer le défi média, va la recordé, tout le monde peut mettre un taban commenter, etc. So these are only opinion you can use. You can't use that for your research. Okay, is it propaganda, marketing, or the bias? So these are what you call crap. Be careful about your. You need to use crap sources instead, but be careful about the loopholes that they have in there. The common errors. This is for the mention about the reference list should be in alphabetical order and not numbered. Remember the Harvard style, you have the in-text citation and then you have the list of references. The list of references should be in alphabetical order, just like the list of acronym in alphabetical order. The list of the references should be in list the alphabetical. It's not numbered. Some students even put number and reference and what we call alphabetical order. No, it should only be alphabetical order, no numbers at all. In journal publication and so on, there you use a numbering system, but not in your dissertation. Common errors, not reference paraphrase part. Even though you have paraphrased it, you have put it in your own words, but the idea is not yours. You need to reference that. This is the common error. Students, at times, they put the surname and the name of the author, the initial in the author. This is wrong. Okay, we say that only in text citation, only the surname and the year is important. Okay. Now, difference between annex and appendix, generally speaking, annex is a standalone document usually attached at the end of the, maybe you don't refer to it, but appendix, you are going to refer to it in your document. Refer to the appendix, you're going to mention that in your document, generally speaking. And annex is just like additional information which you can add if someone wants to read it. Material that could distract the reader from the development. So things that we can put in the appendix can be the letter of approval that a company has given you to do research in the company, maybe your data, raw data that you have collected that you can't put in your chapter number 4. You can put that in appendix. So appendix are going to be numbered like appendix A, appendix B, appendix C, and so on. Okay, these are things that you can have in your appendix. Examiner view as per the guidelines provided by the, so examiners mark as per guide. Every university has a guideline. That's what we call a mark sheet for the examiner. They mark you according to that. This is what I've given you generally, but if you want to read more, you can have this article. I've got the link here. What examiners do, what thesis students should know. Okay, so it gives you an idea about the examiner's perspective, which we are going to cover in a few slides. So references, that's what we call, if I get these 3 things, I can understand, I can gauge exactly what will be plus minus 5%, what will be the marking from other student. References, English language, clarity, punctuation, spelling, and then conclusion to align with inner. If they have been able to meet that, they got a good dissertation. You don't need to read everything. Okay, definitely you will need to read, but if ever you have maybe 5 minutes to just give a marking on a dissertation, I just see the list of references, the type of English, the punctuation, and so on, and the conclusion, does it align to the aim? That's it. You can grade the student. Next, a few things for you to know about the examiner's perspective. Number 1, examiners tend to be broadly consistent. So all examiners seem to be looking for the same core qualities, the universal qualities. This is what we have covered today. They want it to be structured in a proper way. It's not like it's changing from university to university. There may be a few things, but generally speaking, 95% the dissertation should be as we have discussed today. Examiners' practice is broadly consistent despite differences in institutional institutions, what we have just said. Examiners expect it. So when they start to mark, maybe the dissertation given to them, there you go. They want the dissertation to pass. It's not that they start with negative, I think I can give you. No, they thought, this student is going to pass. Then you will need to convince them with your bad academic practice, your figures not properly labeled, you have not done a correct proofreading, you convince him to give you a fail. They start with the initial intention is to make you pass, okay? Hoping to find their task rewarding, and remember, excite them, make it pleasurable for them. They know months, years of effort have gone in a thesis and it has been judged worthy by supervisors, okay, or at least passable. So because you have a supervisor which is who is supervising you, so usually you need to keep in touch with your supervisor. So there has been some guidance, okay, it's not on your own, but usually we see that students, they try to do it on their own, even at MSc level, okay? So examiners, by default, they want you to pass. Examiners are reluctant to fail a thesis. They consider a thesis a pass until it is proven a fail. Okay, but I'm not here to discuss about pass and fail for you. I'm here to discuss about moving from a 50%, giving you the support for you to move to an A75. We're not considering 41 marks here. Okay, I believe that since you are here, you are going maybe an average to high. You want to go. Maybe if you're a 70, you want to get 80. This is what you are, why you are here. Okay, so but just to let you know the perspective, the starting point that they want you to pass. Okay, less than 1% of examiners recommend a fail. So you need to have done, unless it is your supervisor whom you have not met or you're not in good terms with him. So just generally speaking, they don't want to make you fail because they need to explain why they are going to fail you. Okay, and it's a long journey for that. Examiners judge a thesis by the end of the first or second. This is what you call the first impression. The first few pages, chapter number 1, is total chapter number 3, the way you are referencing in text citation and so on. And mind you, if you put an in-text citation, there's no list of references. They will know. We check that. Okay, they will just to check whether you have the in-text, which is a matching with the list of references. We are going to do that. Don't worry. Okay, so just check. Take your time. This is why you have to plan and reserve maybe 1 week just to check your referencing properly. Even the examiners expect a pass, first impression can change their mind. Remember, the first bite of the biryani is an lychee. It changes your judgment on the biryani. Okay. First few chapters, while they skim through the abstract table of content, introduction, and conclusion, you can have an idea. They already have a first impression. I have it. Okay. They quickly decide whether the thesis is likely to be hard work for them or an enjoyable read, a treat, or an endurance test. So we need to take des Panadol avant l'IA. Okay, I think we talk about this one. Examiners read a thesis as an academic reader and it's not like a love letter. They're not reading journal, journal, okay, Défi, L'Express, and so on. They read it from a perspective of an academic reader. This is what I told you. That's why we spend so much time to do academic writing. It's so important. Examiners, and if they're not enjoying the read, they are more likely to judge it to be poor quality. Poor quality, they're just going to give you average mark. Okay. Examiners may read in the evening when they are tired, fatigué au travail, and they can take from 2 to 4 full days across 2 to 3 weeks. Some examiners even read a thesis several times. Okay. So these are things that you need to know. What happens in the, it's not like they're fresh, they are so happy. The fait qu'il y a une augmentation, un increment là dans la paye fait que verser les autres commencent à lire le rapport. No, it may be that they have had a hard day. So it's up to you to make it, to take everything on your side to make it an enjoyable experience for them. Make their day. Okay. Examiners are irritated and distracted by presentation errors. Okay. I think we spent so much time on misspelling, punctuation, and so on. So over to you on this one, presentation errors. Examiners favor a coherent thesis. Okay, what is meant by coherent? So you know exactly what is happening in chapter number 1, giving an idea what's going to happen in chapter number 2. Chapter number 2, literature review, bracing the way. okay, paving the way to chapter number 3, literature, maybe methodology. You give already an idea what findings you expect to get and so on. So it is interesting, it is linked, connected. It's what we call a coherent thesis. Examiners favor thesis that engages with the literature. You compare critically. It's not only someone biased, and so on. So you say, this author has said that, but contrary to that, the other author. So you contrast. Okay, you create this conversation in a way of contrasting between authors. Okay. So c'est bon. Examiners favor thesis with a convincing approach. So ultimately, you're convinced yourself. Okay, why this is why you have done this methodology, why you have not chosen this one. So you show your understanding about the methodology. This is what we have discussed. Findings, okay, that a thesis that thoroughly engages with the findings rather than merely listing, describing what was found. So I have got students, not students as second marker, because my students don't do that. They get already their own on track right from the beginning. But a second marker, they just describe the figure shows a bar chart with the mean 2.1, the standard deviation 5.5. So what? This is only describing what we are already seeing. You need to give your finding. What is your interpretation? Remember the free graph, data, information, knowledge. I want the knowledge. You're going to be marked on the knowledge that comes out from your findings. Okay? It is one step ahead. Examiners require thesis to be publishable. So publishable, maybe not for you, most likely for a PhD candidate. Okay, it is advancing the knowledge quite significantly. Okay, give summative, and so they are going to give feedback. Okay, at times you can have not supervisor, but external moderators. They're going to give you feedback. So take it positively. Okay, don't take it badly. At times, like you can get 2 or 3 pages of just feedback. Just take it away for improvement. Have what we call a good approach to that. Okay, our summary. The 4 main pillars that we have seen today for a successful dissertation is going to be the academic writing. You may not believe me, okay, but it is it carries so many marks. Okay, percentage in terms of the mark percentage, 10% definitely on academic writing and referencing, but indirectly it contributes to much more over the, maybe I would say 25 to 30%. If you had a good academic writing and good referencing, it can bring you so many marks. Thesis structure and content, we have seen a bit of referencing, and then we have seen what the exam, what happens in the examiner's mind. So that was it for you. I told you it's a long one, but I hope that I've been able to give you maybe value for your time, and maybe I don't know if we can end here, not end here, but we're just going to tackle a bit of your question. Maybe the host and maybe Zuleika, I don't know if you're around.
Yes.
You can come up.
We have a few questions. I see 4 questions from Aisha to Said. She asked if the slides will be shared. That will be up to you.
I'm going to send you my Juice account, and you can maybe send it anyway. So basically, I'm going to send it to to Zuleika or Irfan, and those who have registered, they are going to get it by mail. Definitely, that's okay for me.
Okay, so she asked, should a general topic of research given by my university, do I have a choice to choose my own research topic, or I have to go by the one provided by the university?
Okay. So usually universities encourage students to choose their topic. Okay, they will encourage you because it's like, if it is hard for the student to find topic, it is harder for the supervisors or potential supervisors to find topics, unless they are doing their own research on their own PhD and they need someone to help them on that. Then you can have research topic. But generally, they encourage students to go for their own topic. But students, they don't find and so on. And then the supervisor just going to push a few topics that they have. Okay, but if you're given a topic, you can always discuss with your supervisor if you want to have it this way or this, or you want to change topic, because the supervisor, they have a specific field of maybe supervision that they do. Maybe at times you need to switch in between supervisor as well. But I think this is an issue which can be not an issue. a subject which needs to be discussed, and usually it is, I know, maybe supervisor who are open to that. Okay, you can choose your own topic.
Yes, we have another question. She said, in case where your research topic is something that others have done before, is it okay to look at people's work available for guidances? Will it be plagiarism if I do that?
No. So basically, this is what you need to do. If you're doing research, let's say on sustainability, you need to read on what people have done. But then you cannot just copy their work and say this is your own. You're going, their work, the other people are going to be in your literature review. And you need to what we call paraphrase, you need to cite, to reference properly. Then you need to look for another aspect of that has not been researched. This is what you need to do ultimately. But it's good, it is recommended to look at what others have done. That's okay.
Another question, will it be appropriate for a student to work on something outside their major?
It can be, yes. It's not appropriate. It is maybe because you have your majors, and then there maybe if it is related to your field, definitely you can have it. If there's scope for doing research, yes, because this is what the research is about. You're going to pinpoint that specific thing that people have not, and at times, let's say you can talk about electrical engineering student, okay, but they have so many. You can have on IC, you can work on programming, you can work on Arduino code, you can work on so many things. Some can work on renewable, and now in terms of renewable energy, you can work on wind, you can work on solar. If on solar, you can work on PV, you can work on integration, on the fault. All these are specific things, specific area. So you can even have majors, but you can look for a small thing which are maybe minors in the majors.
Another question, if I mention the name of the author and year in my sentence, is it necessary to use in-text citation?
I didn't get this one. So where is this one coming from? Can you go back, because I was following the one.
No. It's in the chat.
Okay.
From Muhammad Zafir Eddin.
Let me just check. So if I mention the name, if I mention the name of the author and year in my sentence, it's necessary to use in-text citation. No. So that's why in-text citation, there are two ways of writing in-text citation. One is a sentence is, let's say, Essackjee, open bracket, 2020, said that you need not do that. So it is already in a sentence. This is one way of using in-text citation. Other way of writing or putting in-text citation is the topic was discussed in clause, open bracket, Essackjee 2022. Two ways. So either it forms part of the sentence structure, or at the end of the sentence, you put that in bracket. Two ways. But you will need to, so if you write the first one, you need to use the other one.
What if we do not find the name of the author on the online website?
Okay, then you need to be creative. Okay, let's say let's say it was on L'Express. So you can use L'Express. Okay, like L'Express, you can put it, but then in the reference it should match. Okay, you can use that. Let's say L'Express is okay, but let's say you have a website, you can use a website name, but it should be short. Okay, not the article's name, but the website name. You can use that, the short term, but it should match with what you have as in text, and then for the list of references.
Say we write a sentence that contains a positive research and a research contradicting it, contrary to this. How would the referencing be done?
So say we write a sentence and contains a positive research and a research contradicting it. Okay, how would the referencing be? Okay, so very good question. So now we are going to the details, but that's great. So let's say I'm going to take Zuleika 2022 stated that we should end this webinar very soon. However, point virgule, etc. However, Ismail, Essackjee 2022 maintain that it should be continued until all the questions are answered. So you have two contradicting views, but you can put that, like, you don't put that at the end of the sentence. Even in between the sentence, researchers suggest that maybe team building is good. You can put the bracket there, you put this, the author's surname and the year, then the sentence continues, because you can have A say that, B say that, and so on. You can put that, no need to it for it to be at the end of the sentence. Okay, this can be done as well in between the sentences. You can have the in-text citation, the in bracket one.
If the topic is a review, is primary data is still important?
If the topic is a review, is primary, no. So we have what is for the general attendees, a review topic is maybe when it is basically the literature review. It is a new trend where people are doing literature review. They publish the literature review, okay? Or when it is a broad field, okay, where so much of data, they just do a compilation of all the data. So over there, there's no need for primary data, because you're just compiling all the data. Ultimately, you're just building a concise, a compilation of existing data, which we call a review paper. Okay, no need for primary data.
How would I know if my research question is too time consuming? Thus, it would not be appropriate to complete in 1 year.
Okay, so this is up to you, but this is why we need to learn a bit about project management. You need to know exactly, or discuss with your supervisor, what is included, what are you trying to do. When you say, this is the problem, this is the aim, and then what are my objectives? Each objective should be measurable. How far can I, maybe if you're, how many students I'm going to interview? Maybe if you need 10 or 100 students, would you have time? But it's up to you to decide. It's just like, it's up to you to be able to decide exactly. There's no hard and fast rule for that. You will need to select, to break it down in project management. We break it down into smaller parts to say, okay, this part, I can do that in 1 week, this one in 1 week, 2 weeks, and so on. Then I put that together. Oh, this is going to take me 1 year, 2 years. This is too much. I'm going to decrease the scope. But don't decrease the scope. It doesn't meet the requirement. You don't have good findings at the end. So you need to find a good balance with that. There's no hard and fast rule, but it's just like you're having your meal. You will know exactly how much you can digest. You're going to take an adequate amount that you don't have what we call you're going to throw it away at the end, or you're going to be hungry at the end. So you just need to pick a reasonable amount.
Can research rely solely on secondary data and no primary data, especially if the research can use an international scope?
Can you come again?
Can a research rely solely on secondary data and no primary data, especially if the research can use an international scope?
Yes, so secondary data is what we call a bit of the question that we have just answered on the review paper. So it's mostly secondary data. We collect data, but you don't get a PhD for that. You're not advancing knowledge out there. It's part of a research. You can publish a paper on that, but it's not like a dissertation in itself. Okay, it can be what we call part. It can be, if you are doing a PhD, you can publish a literature review. This is what we call a review paper, where you collect all the information, you put it in a proper form. It's most of a paper, but not a dissertation. Dissertation, you need to go beyond. You have secondary data, and then you need to go for primary data. It is research, but not dissertation component.
Another question is, should all my objectives be part of my research questions?
Okay, research question usually is a question that you are trying to achieve. Then you have an aim. And then on the aim, you have the objective usually. Okay, so basically you have the question. Usually it is linked. Objective and research question are linked. I would say yes. I hope I'm having the same understanding. But I usually put it as aim and then the objective. Objective can be maybe questions as well. But I prefer to have it in terms of objective compared to question. But at times question can be good as well. You can find answers. It will depend from circumstances, I would say. I can't give a definite answer, but usually if it is in terms of your research, you need to have the objectives clearly pointed out right from the beginning. Even though it is research question or objective, they should be written out properly at the beginning. Okay.
In how many months or year would you suggest us to begin to prepare for a degree dissertation to avoid stress and other issues?
So, because you see, the way it has been structured, the program, any program, you have is final year, and you just need to, I won't say at the level 2, or if you have a 3-year study at level 2, you need to focus. You're going to lose focus on your more important modules that we're doing on level 2. But what I can advise is to at least enjoy the different modules, and start trying to see which one you have an affinity for. Get your where one is like it excites your appetite. Okay, at least do that, and then with time you're going to discuss. But don't try to focus on the dissertation right from year 1 or year 2. Okay, it is a component. It has a high grading in terms of credit, but enjoy the process, level 1, level 2. Enjoy your time as well. Enjoy the different modules. It is not the prime focus. Okay, it's going to come, but just build your different modules. Different modules are going to build your capacity as a student engineering, not engineering, but university student. And then when time comes, you're going to be ripe enough to be able to take the decision.
A few people want to know what's the difference between theoretical and empirical review.
Aïe, c'est une grande affaire. So empirical, I think I lost it. I don't have it in mind. Okay, it's not part of what I usually cover, and in terms of my supervision and so on, and mobile design bitches, I prefer that we can look for that maybe later on, and then maybe share that. I don't have the answer right in my head right now, but I had it. I forgot about the theoretical and empirical review. So empirical is more of what has been shown earlier, generally accepted. You're just trying to review whether it is still valid in this circumstance or not. Theoretical, it is a new practice. It is a theory. You just want to prove it. Empirical, usually, let's say it's more of a rule of thumb. It's an accepted practice. Okay, and you want to test it whether it is still valid today. From my understanding, theoretical is just what we are just trying. You have questions and so on, you just ask. You have hypotheses. These are more theoretical, my understanding, which may not be true.
Okay, we will verify that. Okay. And we have another question for a 10,000 word thesis. How many words is recommended for the literature review?
Okay, so it's not in terms of number of words. Usually it is going to be in terms of maybe 5 to 6 pages would be enough. If you cover maybe the important part, the introduction and the conclusion are quite short. Okay, introduction should be around 5 to 6 pages, maximum 10 pages, because the different thing, it is to the point. Introduction chapter should have the introduction section. It should have the problem statement or the background of the research. The problem statement, you specify your problem, which is maybe half a page. You get the aim of the research, which is a few lines. Then the objectives of the research, a few lines as well. Then next is the outline of the research, which may take you 1 page, and then you have the summary. So I would say 5 pages should be enough. Maybe for a PhD, you can go for 10 pages, but for a 10,000 word thesis, 5 pages would be enough.
I don't see any more questions. I hope I didn't miss any of it. I think if that's all, we can wrap up, right? Okay, good. Thank you so much, Dr. Iswai. It was a very interesting session. Although I've already graduated, I've followed the lecture. Thank you so much, and we wish you all the best. And congratulations once again on getting your PhD. Thank you. Okay, vous êtes, merci beaucoup. Bonne chance à vous. Okay, and all the best to you for your dissertation and so on. Have fun with it. Bye-bye.